So, good evening, Simi Valley.
Good evening.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Before we get started, you'll notice a little bit of change on the dais. Councilmember Luevanos is with us by telephone or Zoom. There's a telephone hook to that. Yeah. And we have our youth council chair, Davine, Raul Davine. Yeah, I'm sorry. And he'll be joining us and then giving us the youth council report. And I'm sure once you get done up here, you'll go, oh, that's what I want to do in the worst way. But anyway, welcome. Glad you're up here with us. Okay, closed session report.
All right, good evening. In closed session, the City of Simi Valley City Council authorized the City Attorney's Office to initiate a lawsuit to attempt to recover property damage incurred by it against Mary White by a vote of 5-0. In closed session, the City of Simi Valley City Council authorized the City Attorney's Office to initiate a lawsuit to attempt to recover property damage incurred by it against Stephen Godinez by a vote of 5-0. In closed session, the City of Simi Valley City Council authorized the City Attorney's Office to initiate a lawsuit to attempt to recover property damage incurred by it against Angela Gomez by a vote of 5-0. And lastly, in closed session, the City of Simi Valley City Council authorized the City Attorney's Office to initiate a lawsuit to attempt to recover property damage incurred by it against Jose Alcanigua by a vote of 5-0. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Robert Martin, you didn't know I was going to call on you. Would you lead us in the pledge? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Luevanos. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Here.
Councilmember Judge.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
Here.
I'm
Mayor
here. Can you
Mashburn?
hear me?
Yes. Councilmember
Okay.
Luevanos? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Mashburn.
I'm here.
Oh. Mayor Mashburn, I apologize.
I get the same treatment at home. Okay, agenda review. Are there any items for agenda review?
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second.
Motion and second, call for the vote.
Please vote yes for me.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, declaration of conflict. If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time. Seeing none. Move forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, presentation of certificates of appreciation to outgoing Neighborhood Council Executive Board members, and Emily Habib is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. This evening, we're recognizing 9 outgoing members of the Neighborhood Council Executive Boards. Executive board members act as a conduit between residents and city government on matters that affect the community. During their tenure, these executive board members diligently reviewed, evaluated, and made recommendations to the Planning Commission and City Council on complex development projects. Several of the outgoing Neighborhood Council executive board members are here tonight. As I read your names, I ask you to come forward to receive a well-deserved certificate of appreciation for your contribution of time and leadership to the community. Neighborhood Council 1, Mahmoud Bolat, Rainford Hunter, Bernadine Shockey, Alan Barkwill, Gloria Bowman. That was Neighborhood Council 2, pardon me. Neighborhood Council 3, Julia Feig, Ben Panama, Fred Peterson, and Tammy Wirtz. Please join me in congratulating these outgoing Neighborhood Council Executive Board members on a job well done.
Oh, thank you. So everybody, if you're not familiar with Neighborhood Council, it's just that. It's the local neighborhood group that is the council for that neighborhood, makes contact with all the residents in the area, provides them with information on what goes on here at the regular city council meetings, and spends a lot of their free time being neighborhood council members. It's a way to serve your community, and I would hope and encourage everybody to get involved. You can see it online, semivalley.org, and get all the information there, and then become a neighborhood council member. With that, we certainly want to again thank everybody that has served, and hopefully they'll serve again.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D2, presentation of certificates of appreciation to outgoing Community Projects Grant Review Committee members, and Jennifer Del Toro is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. In 2011, the City Council and Waste Management executed a memorandum of understanding, which provides annual grant funding of $150,000. The City Council awards funding to nonprofit organizations for community projects and programs that benefit the Simi Valley community. In 2017, the City Council created the Community Projects Grant Review Committee, consisting of 7 representatives representing each of the 4 neighborhood councils: the Council on Aging, Youth Council, and the community at large. The review committee provides public input and funding recommendation for City Council consideration. Each year, the requests have well exceeded the amount available, and all of deserving programs and projects are not able to be funded. This year, the review committee met in April to develop its review process for evaluating the 20 eligible funding requests that totaled $535,000. In May, the review committee met again to receive public comments, presentations from the applicant organizations, and discuss the funding request. After discussion, the review committee concluded its service by providing its funding recommendation for City Council consideration, and that will be presented later this evening. To show our appreciation, the review committee members who are present this evening are asked to come forward to be recognized for their contribution of time, leadership, and service to the community. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 1, Rainford Hunter. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 2, Dimitri Erman. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 3, Ben Panama. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 4, Bobby Calderon. Representing the Council on Aging, Marietta Sperry. Representing the Youth Council, Mateos Brokey. And representing the community at large, Marissa Latham French.
Yeah, they were mixed up. So once again, it looks like we have a lot of the same people being active in the community. This is a task. This is a job, if you will, because this city is so blessed to have so many nonprofits serving our city, and it's usually nothing but nonprofits that ask for these funds. And so what the council has so wisely done is formed a committee to make the choices for us, because how hard is it? It's a task, as I'm sure you have far more requests for money than you do have money. And so these are the people that determined the way it should go, then submit it to the council. And I think it's rare that the council would ever change what the committee suggests in the way of distributing those funds. So big hand to you folks for the time, effort, and I would guess stress here. So thank you very much.
What's that? Oh. No, I think, I mean, it was a pleasure serving. I think we did our due diligence. We spent time with it. I think we came up with a pretty fair assessment and ultimately recommendations. So these guys did all the work. We kind of jointly collaborated, and I thought we came up with a pretty good conclusion. So.
Yeah, there were a lot of good, deserving nonprofits, just not enough money to go around for everybody. And we had to stick to the requirements that we came up with and try to get as many nonprofits funded as we could.
And I would just echo what these gentlemen have said. And the most difficult part was to come up with the requirements that we try to abide by, to distribute or hand out the funds. That was the most tedious part of the whole process. Giving the money was the easy part. Just coming up with the process to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, thank you for your service, and don't go too far away because we have many opportunities. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 2, public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted to speak for this public statements item 2 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. We have 2 speaker cards for item 2. First one is John Lapper.
John Lapper from Simi Valley. Regarding the Neighborhood Council appointment approval process tonight, I would like to go on record as disapproving the nomination of Richard Perini. I have found his personal attacks on my viewpoints on Facebook so abusive that I have had to block him. I also noticed he has not attended, or he's attended 0 Neighborhood Council meetings. Normally I wouldn't care, but Mayor Mashburn, Councilman Judge, Mayor Pro Tem Litster, and Councilwoman Kavanaugh have set a disappointing precedent of rejecting volunteers based on false accusations on social media. This is especially wrong as political viewpoints that you cannot accept have no relevance to the fine work that volunteer neighborhood council appointees bring to their committees, as each is only one of 14 members. Thank you.
Bruce Boyer.
Good evening. I'm Bruce Boyer from Chatsworth Lake Manor, Ventura County. The issue of selection grants to nonprofits is all well and good. Appointing people to neighborhood councils is all well and good. Declaring certain days and months, not so well and good. It's within this council's authority to appoint people to neighborhood councils, and you pretty much get to pick who you want. But the issue, in contrast, is when you declare special months and recognition special groups.
Mr. Boyer.
I'm
Mr.
coming
Boyer.
there, Mr.
Hang on,
Caceres.
Mr. Boyer. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to
No,
make
you're
sure you
not.
understand. that this is the...
I'm reserving my time while Mr. Caceres speaks during it.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. This is the opportunity for you to speak on public statements related to appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. And you wanting to talk about holidays and so forth may be more akin or maybe better suited for item number 4, public statements on all items other than public hearing, appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. That might be the more appropriate time if you want to save your comments for that time.
Are you done, Mr. Caceres? I don't want to interrupt you. As I was saying, in contrast, the council has the authority to make these appointments. But Mayor Mashburn doesn't have the authority to fly his flags from our flagpoles.
Mr. Boyer, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to repeat again.
I'm going to hold my time again, Mr. Caceres.
That this is the opportunity for you to discuss appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. It seems like the item that you want to discuss now would be better suited for item number 4, public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and special presentations and information reports. I'm sure and I'm hoping that you're understanding what I'm saying.
Should we go to sidebar? Because we're wasting these people's time. I'm just trying to make my comments.
It's up to you, Mr. Boyer.
May I continue then?
Not on, I'm asking you, as a courtesy, as a professional courtesy, to stick to item number 4.
Mr. Caceres, with all due respect, I've heard what you've said twice. I am probably the most frequent speaker here except for Mr. Lapper. I know what the Brown Act is. Am I free to continue?
You, actually, apparently, you're not aware of the Brown Act. I'm asking you in a very nice, polite, cordial, and respectful way to adhere to the Brown Act and follow the properly agendized item of the City Council.
Which, if you'll allow me to keep speaking, I'm trying to do.
In the 2 instances that you spoke on items other than special presentations,
My
information reports, and
apologies,
appointments.
folks. Mr. Caceres, do you not understand what a comparison is? I think you do. I'm trying to make a comparison. I really didn't come up here to have a back and forth with you. I came up to make my point. Am I free to continue, sir?
As I indicated again, you need to follow the Brown Act, and I've asked you numerous times, and I would hope that you respect me and this council staying consistent with what is within the
I
Brown Act.
am following the Brown Act, Mr. Caceres.
Thank you.
Am I free to continue now?
Please stop putting words in my mouth.
I'm just asking you if I'm free to continue, because I do have to get back on track. I'm not writing from a prepared speech. May I continue then? Very good. So I was saying, in comparison, for the city to announce special days and fly special flags from the flagpole is not within the council's authority. This has been brought to the council's attention. The Supreme Court has even said, no, you can't do that. Mayor Mashburn, Councilmember Lueva knows, look, you can fly your own flags anywhere you want. But the public,
Mayor, this seems like a blatant violation of the Brown Act.
you want to cuff me now?
I would ask Mr. Boyer to please speak on item number 4.
I'm holding my time because
not
she's
a
interrupting me.
violation of the Brown Act.
Councilmember Luevas is absolutely correct. You're in potential.
I'm sorry, I
violation of the
couldn't
Brown
hear.
Act.
I was trying to speak and she's speaking over me during my period. Can I continue?
Mr. Councilman.
I'm making a motion for point of order that this
Okay,
this discussion is out of order.
Let me try. Mr. Boyer, if we give you at the regular public. Item number 4, your full time, and just let you do exactly what you had planned on speaking at this time, would that be?
I am already scheduled to speak for my 180 seconds on 4. I'm speaking as to item number 2 here, which is difficult when I'm being interrupted now by council members.
Yeah,
The point of order is well taken, and I would agree with Councilman Luevas. I'm asking you just
Then
to,
make your motion and silence me, or let me continue.
well, I'm asking you to comply with the Brown Act.
I am complying with the Brown Act, Mr. Caceres. It's just hard for you to hear it because I keep getting interrupted.
I can hear just fine, Mr. Boyer.
May I continue now?
you may continue.
Well, you
and
make the motion and tell me I can't then, if
No.
that's what you want to do.
I think.
I move
Would
to
you,
dismiss Mr.
would you let me? I would
Yes, sir.
like to let Mr. Boyer continue speaking and with all of his time, and then we'll discuss this after his time's up.
Very good.
Is that okay?
Respectfully, Mayor, I don't want us to be in violation of the Brown Act.
None of us do. Go ahead, Mr. Boyer.
Thank you, sir. So, as a point of comparison, yes, you can make these appointments. And if people don't like who you appoint to neighborhood councils, well, then they can change who sits up on the city council. However, the issue of using city resources to express personal views, if Councilmember Luevanos wants to fly her flag behind her, that's her option. But she's not at a city council meeting. It is absolutely wrong for the city to fly preference flags. So, while I object to this, I have put the city on notice that says I would like, and we would all like, the right to have our preference flags, which of course is not going to be able to happen. So now that the city has put its foot in it and done this, we're going to have to deal with the legal consequences. Fortunately, the Supreme Court has weighed in. But again, in contrast, Luevanos can make her statements. She can appoint the people to neighborhood council. You can give out the recommendations that you want. There are limits of where your authority is, and this has exceeded it. My time is done. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Oh, yes, indeed, Mr. Mashburn. How can I help you?
Where are we flying a preference flag?
Your choice to fly the, I believe you call it a gay pride flag, and light up the lights in a rainbow that you approved last meeting, I'll happily have a conversation with you at a different time because this is not on the agenda and we can't discuss this. But I would welcome a public forum, as I think many of us might.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last speaker. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3A1, ratification of the appointment of a representative to the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council, and Robert Martin is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of City Council. The Ventura County Area Agency on Aging represents the concerns of senior citizens countywide. It provides leadership, advocacy, and visibility for persons aged 60 and over within Ventura County. The VCAAA Advisory Council is comprised of 2 representatives from each city within the county and serves to advise the VCAAA on matters related to persons aged 60 and over. Each City Council on Aging Executive Board selects 2 representatives, which are then ratified by the respective City Council and appointed to the 20-member VCAAA Advisory Council. The Simi Valley Council on Aging began soliciting applications for the upcoming vacancy on May 9th, 2022, and closed recruitment on June 10th, 2022. During this period, 1 interest form was received. On June 13th, the COA voted to recommend the appointment of Janet Plant as representative to the VCAAA Advisory Board, subject to the City Council's ratification. If ratified, this will be Mrs. Plant's first term commencing on July 1st, 2022, and concluding on June 30th, 2024. It is the recommendation of the Council on Aging that the City Council approves and the Mayor appoints Janet Plant as a representative to the VCAAA VCAAA Advisory Council. This concludes the report, and staff is available for answers or any questions at this time. Janet is present in the audience. Janet, can you stand? Thank you.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes, you may.
I would like to know, I know that this is Mrs. Plant's first term, but I'd like to know if in, I'd say 3 or 4 months, we could get a report from Ms. Plant on what has been going on with the VCAAA. Just like Youth Council does reports, I would love to have a report from VCAAA. Is that possible?
It's certainly possible, but it's something that the council will have to decide on, and I don't think the time is appropriate right now. Item 9B, you can make that request, and I'd like to move forward with the appointment.
May I make a motion?
I see Elaine Lister would like to speak.
Actually, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I want, in my notes, I wrote, Janet Plant's background of service on the Council on Aging makes her an ideal candidate for the VCAAA. She has served as the chair of that organization with exemplary actions, and I see her as a proactive person. And so, in fact, as Councilmember Luevanos is asking for a report, I suspect that Mrs. Plant will be very active in representing Simi Valley, and I look forward to her in that position. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to ratify the appointment of Janet Plant as one of the city's representatives to the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council with a term commencing on July 1, 2022 and concluding on June 30th, 2024.
Second. Motion second, call for the vote.
Please vote yes for me.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
And for the record, I appoint you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3A2, appointment of Neighborhood Council Executive Board members to the 4 neighborhood councils, and Emily Habib is presenting this item.
Once again, good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Since 1970, the neighborhood councils have served as an important component in the city government structure. They promote citizen awareness and participation in local government. They advise the City Council and Planning Commission on development projects and citizen concerns. There are a total of 20 vacancies on the 4 executive boards of the neighborhood councils. Tonight, 20 applicants are being nominated to serve terms commencing on July 1st, 2022, and expiring on June 30th, 2024. Some of the nominees are present this evening. As I read your name, please come forward. Neighborhood Council 1, Elsa Dreckman, Debbie Gainey, Mark Luker, David Mosso, Cameron Thompson. Neighborhood Council 2, Al Brown, Ian Mena, Richard Perini, Gail Sutton, and Rain Weissman. Neighborhood Council 3, Tim Atencio, Bridget Charbonneau, Andy Hanna, Lyle Jackson, and Jeremy Yablon. Neighborhood Council 4, Chris Malden, Amy Obringer, Salwa Scarpone, Jan Smith, and Gina Trincale. It is recommended that the City Council approve and the mayor appoint all 20 applicants nominated to serve on the executive boards of the 4 neighborhood councils for a term commencing on July 1st, 2022 and expiring on June 30th, 2024.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve all but Richard Green, pending an investigation into social media bullying.
The motion fails for lack of a second.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to motion that we move to adopt all of the members that were chosen by the committees to pick the neighborhood council.
Second.
Appoint, I'm sorry.
Motion and second, and would you vote yes for me?
Please vote no for me. I believe that we should treat all future appointees equitably, as we have in the past investigated other appointees for social media posts. That's why I'm voting no.
Mayor Pro Tem Lister.
I'm sorry, I didn't look at it. Apologies.
The motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no.
All right, that means congratulations to everyone. And I think probably 4/5 of the council is wanting to thank you for your service, because it is service. And we appreciate what you do to, I started to say do to us, and you don't do anything bad to us. What you serve and what you pass on to us, we appreciate. And sometimes it's hard to believe, but we look at your comments and the way you vote on things, and I'm guilty of occasionally plagiarizing some of what you say, because I go, that'll be good on the dais, you know. So, but all in all, thank you so much, and don't go away. We've got awesome pins for you.
And Mayor, while you're passing those pins out, I just want to say thank you to all of you who are willing to serve. But I know It was really a privilege interviewing. I think all of us had the opportunity to interview. And as I was reading through the background of all of you, we have everything from someone who's served 4 times to someone who's brand new to all sorts of backgrounds. I know someone in this group drove back from Bear Lake to be here today. I know anyway, it is really, we are honored that you are doing and willing to do so much for our community. Thank you, thank you.
And Mayor, I'd just like to remind all the new appointees that they are subject to the Code of Ethics, as we all are.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3A3, reappointment of President Mashburn and President Pro Tem Litzter to serve on the Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees, and adoption of a resolution, and Kelly Tinker is here to present this item.
Good evening, President Mashburn and Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees. In 2012, the Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees established the initial terms of office of the board, with 3-year terms of service for each trustee. The terms of service of Board President Mashburn and President Pro Tem Litzter are due to expire on June 30th, 2022. Therefore, it is recommended that the board adopt a resolution to reappoint President Mashburn and President Pro Tem Litzter to serve on the Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees for an additional 3-year terms, beginning July 1st, 2022 and expiring June 30th, 2025. No other board positions are expiring this year. This concludes the report, and staff is available to answer any questions.
I had no idea my term was expiring until I read this report, and so I would like to lobby for to be able to continue, but I don't think I should make the motion.
Have a resolution.
Mayor, may I make a motion?
We need to read the resolution first.
Yeah, and I'd like the opportunity to speak to the staff before they throw us out of here.
The reading of the resolution is as follows. Resolution number 2022-41, a resolution of the Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees reappointing Board President Mashburn and President Pro Tem Litzter to the Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees.
Okay. I'd just like to say that it's been more than a pleasure working with the library, and that this city, we are incredibly fortunate to have such a good library. And it's more than going in and checking out books by far. If you haven't been there, it's so much more than just that. That's what I remember from my childhood, is it's a place you go and check out books and take them home and leave them on the kitchen counter until your mom gets mad because they're overdue and you got to pay 32-cent fine. But now you go into the library, again, there's so much more. There's so many activities for children that's bilingual. There's so many cultures that are represented there. And I truly, it's one of the highlights of me being part of this community and being on this council. So if so desired, I would certainly like to serve again.
Mayor, may I make a motion?
Yes.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-41, reappointing Board President Mashburn and President Pro Tem Litzter to serve on the Simi Valley Library Board of Trustees for additional terms beginning July 1st, 2022 and through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion and second. Call for the vote.
Please vote yes for me.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3B1, presentation by Sci-Fi Networks regarding the citywide fiber network project, and Samantha Argabright is here to introduce the presenter.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Nearly 2 years ago, on February 24th, 2020, the City Council approved an agreement with Sci-Fi Networks for Sci-Fi to construct a fiber optic network throughout the city. As a long-term goal of the City Council saw the need for more connectivity in the community to support residents and businesses' need for greatly enhanced internet speed. This evening, I'm pleased to introduce Jeff Spickler, Vice President of Community Relations for Sci-Fi, who will be providing an overview and update on the project. Jeff?
For that introduction. Thank you for having me, Mayor Mashburn, City Council members, and city staff. Thank you for allowing me to be here. If you want to go ahead and flip to the next one, I just created kind of a brief presentation just to kind of reset the community as to what we're doing here and why it's so important. All of us that have lived with the internet over the last 10 or 15 years have obviously experienced some frustrations with the internet on lots of different levels. But the future of internet is here. It's actually being constructed today in Simi Valley, and I'm going to give an update as we go throughout this presentation. But what we're talking about is a system that can remove the frustrations that you've had over the last probably decade and a half. You can literally download HD movies in seconds, not minutes or hours. You can stream or download content with no buffering. You can do that with many people in the house with many devices. We're talking about a network that's faster. It's much more resilient. The way it's designed is future-proofed for literally the decades to come here in Simi Valley. And probably one of the most important things is you get additional choice in your internet service providers. There's going to be 2 new internet service providers here in Simi Valley initially. One is called Gigabit Now, and the other one is called Flume Internet. And both are actually here in town tonight at our Kona Ice Truck, which is a weekly event that we do. We do Kona Ice in the summer, and then we do tacos throughout the winter, spring, and fall. And it's an opportunity for those residents that are living in the areas in which we're constructing to come out, to engage with us, to engage with the 2 new ISPs that are going to serve the community and get a chance to ask any questions that they might have about the future of internet here in Simi Valley. And all of that at the end of the day leads to higher resident satisfaction. It also leads to higher home values too, but hey, we're talking about satisfaction here. So next slide, please. So who is Sci-Fi Networks? Well, what we're doing is we're essentially revolutionizing or playing the disruptor in the US telecom market. We're privately funding these networks. There's no municipal dollars at stake here. And we're going to build out the entire footprint of the city of Simi Valley. It's an open access network, which means that technology providers that want to use this network now and in the future will have open access to fiber. It means the city can have access to fiber that they need in locations that they need it to do things to improve the quality of life here in the city of Simi Valley. And we're laying the foundation for this city to thrive from a technology perspective, literally for decades to come. You're going to hear me say that many times tonight. Next slide, please. So these are just some of the benefits. I want to start with the one on the right, closing the digital divide. This has been talked about for years and years and years, but nobody can quite figure out how to do it. By building a network like this that's citywide, that makes a passing by each and every home within the city streets, making it available to every HOA, every multifamily property, every commercial property, we are providing a better way and a better access to fiber than ever before. And that includes every area of the city without exclusion. The way that you close the digital divide is by providing a very high quality of service, a gigabit internet service, symmetrical, but doing it at a lower price versus the way that some of our competitors do it, which is to provide a substandard product, which is a much lower speed at a much lower price. So we are putting our money where our mouth is through our Fiber City Aid program, and we are going to work with this community to close a digital divide. Our mantra is really to build once, citywide, so that when we put the network down in the streets, you know, some people might look at it and say, there's a little scar on the side of the road. That's just temporary. When the roads get resurfaced, that scar is gone forever. So even though you might see it as, you know, hey, it's a little bit of an eyesore, even though we try our very best to do a phenomenally clean job to put this network in. You know, you may see that scar on the side of the road, but remember, it's temporary. When we build this network, all the fiber that this community is going to need is going to be in the ground. On top of that, we're not just talking about speeds of 1 gig. This network is designed and built to be 10 gig enabled, and fiber for the future can be upgraded well beyond 10 gig just by changing the electronics in the system. So what we're talking about now is a network that's engineered for the future. It's going to enable all smart city applications, Internet of Things applications, whether in the home, whether in your private community like your HOA or your building like your multifamily building, or anything that the city wants to do at city facilities, street lights, stoplights, water management, you name it. There are things coming down the pipeline that we don't even recognize yet that are going to make our lives better from a technology perspective. We know that it boosts economic development by creating fiber connections. It'll attract more businesses. It'll create better retention of those businesses. It'll create more attraction for residents that want to move to Simi Valley. And when you have all of your homes that have the ability to get fiber, it's a game changer. It'll benefit local businesses. It'll bring their costs down. It'll allow their investments in people and technology and other things to go up. And it'll promote healthy, non-monopolistic competition because there's going to be 2 new ISPs in town. It brings choice, and that creates happy customers because normally when you have a lot of choice, the prices come down and the quality of service goes up. So that's a beautiful thing. Okay, next slide, please. Some of you might see these micro trenchers running around town. I just want to highlight this. I mean, we've talked here at the council and in other meetings about the benefits of this technology. But like I said, even though you might see this work happening, it might inconvenience you on your street for, an hour or two or a day, or you might pass by it, on one of the main thoroughfares. This is the best technology available to do a project like this. It allows us to go quickly across the entire footprint of the city. It's minimally invasive. It does precise cutting. It's fast and efficient. I know when you hear the words quiet, some people that have had these in their neighborhoods might not say it's quiet, but relatively quiet. I would say that the things that are moving around this equipment are actually louder, like the generators and the vac trucks that pick up all the debris. Those are actually louder than this machine itself. And it minimizes dust and creates an opportunity to just simply have a single lane closure. So even though you might see this sometimes as a minor inconvenience, please look at the bigger picture about what this network is going to do for the community. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to highlight this. We've done about 300,000 feet already, and I just took this little snippet with kind of the red lines moving across the city. But I always say we started kind of at Cochran's and Stearns, moved all the way across to, the big high school there, Santa Susana High School, and then we've kind of gone just north of the freeway and up and around here at City Hall to make some critical connection points for when we kind of wrap around the city. So the way that we're moving is kind of across the bottom half, and then we'll wrap across the top half and then finish kind of in the eastern side. And the project's projected to take a total of just about 2 years, maybe a little bit longer in this case, but it's not going to be much longer. So we are making good progress here. So next slide, please. I get a lot of questions about this, and since I was in a public forum, I thought it'd be fantastic to just, talk about kind of what's out there in the streets. So I brought a little show and tell here plus what's on the screen just so people can get a sense of the size of this. So I always compare it in my presentations to the size of a dime. What you see in that little red microduct, which is what I'm holding here, is 144 strands of fiber. So that can feed 144 individual homes. And that's what they're putting down is that microduct out in the street. And then later on, we're going to come by and we're going to blow that fiber through this microduct system. And we're going to connect it into these little external vaults that kind of sit flush mounted. They go through some cabinets that we put out on the street, and then they connect into these vaults in the neighborhood. And in these vaults, we basically run our main line, which is that red microduct there. And then we connect that to basically these little individual drops that you can see here on the right-hand side, the upper left corner on the right-hand side where it says building exterior. These little drops basically go one to every home. If you have a multifamily property, you might get the other three where we do something where we need to, have a Kevlar wrapping where it needs to go up through some attic space, or you have multiple units, we'll connect them into a box, and then we'll go out to those individual units from there. So I kind of like to show this because it's really a simple system. It's very, very low maintenance. It doesn't require maintenance in the future decades unless there's damage to it. And, once we put it in, it's very easy to maintain and operate and deliver that high quality of service. Go ahead, next slide. And then the last two pieces, I always get asked what goes inside. Well, you can see my business card there on the left. We terminate our fiber into something called a small wall terminal. Think about that as a mini splice chamber. We open up the fiber, We connect it and fuse it to what we call a fiber jumper, and then that goes into a device similar to this. This is about the size of an iPad, just a little thicker and about almost an inch bigger in diameter. So this ONT is basically a full gig capable. There will be multi-gig ONT that has multi-gig capability to deliver that as we kind of continue to launch. And this does everything that your modem at home does. You can plug in your Ethernet ports into the back, or you can connect via Wi-Fi, and you can connect any other system you have if you have Wi-Fi extenders and such throughout the house, or if you have Ethernet ports that go throughout your house. So it's a very, very easy system to implement, and we're so excited to be here and building it in Simi Valley. So with that, I think that's the extent of it. Thank you. All right. Any
Thank you. Do we have a moment? Questions from anybody? Okay, yeah,
I
I'm
have
sorry.
several questions.
Okay. First is Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you. You know that red area where all those lines were? I live there.
Yeah.
So I've already been through this.
Okay.
It's not quiet
Okay.
if you work from home, but it was only one day, and my neighbors said it was okay. They dealt with it.
Okay.
The tacos were good.
Awesome.
I didn't know you were having Kona ice. I'll have to find that too.
Yep.
But and I was on the council when we approved this in the first place. So I'm glad it's something that we're really going to be doing before anybody else in the county. Gives us a little bit of a head start. But I do have some concerns on the looks. So when you talk about the thin little line, that's not bad. But then right in front of my mailbox, there's a big circle
Yep.
with like a slob of stuff in it. It's not even. It could cause a trip.
Okay.
So things like that, I've seen that in 2 or 3 places, but I think our assistant city manager spoke with you guys, and you're going to come in and clean those up?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
And I'm not sure like exactly where you live, but I'm not sure if they put that sort of top coat, which then will sort of smooth that out, and it'll create a smooth surface kind of to the roadway.
I haven't seen that yet in 2
that
different
I need
areas.
to know,
Okay.
yeah. So the difference is if you see something that looks like, you know, kind of a concrete type fill, like a white, more whitish gray color, likely it's unfinished at that point.
Okay,
So,
that's what they
yeah,
are, so.
yeah. So just stand by. I do want to address sort of those round holes
Yes.
or the triangles, or you might see a square. And the other thing I always like to address is the paint markings. We always come out and clean the paint markings when we're completely done with the job. Some of them can be quite ornery if they don't use the right kind of paint, but we'll work at it. We'll do our very best to clean it up. We'll also do our best to come back and remediate something. So if there is something that's a hazard like that, we'd definitely like to be notified. I'd encourage the residents to reach out to us. They can go to our webpage at the SimiValleyFiberCity.com. They can send us a note, goes directly to my team, and then we'll create a report for it. It'll all be geocoded so that it has the lat long information, and we can deploy a team out there to correct it.
Okay, thank you. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I wanted you to be able to tell people you're going to fix it.
Yep.
Because Samantha Argerbright spoke with somebody at your company, and they explained it. So I just wanted to make sure our community members know that. So don't panic
Yep.
like my neighbors were.
Yep,
So
no
I
problem.
appreciate it.
Yep, anytime.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeff, appreciate your presentation, and we appreciate all that information. I do have some questions, it's more so on the actual application or the installation end. And but first of all, let me understand. You've contracted with Gigabyte Now and Flu Internet. Is that what you said?
That's correct. Yep, those are the 2 internet service providers.
Are they are they separate with Sci-Fi, or are they part of your
Totally
network?
separate companies. Yep, totally separate companies, and they've contracted with us to come in and be the internet service providers in the area.
So how does it work? I suspect everyone here in this room has internet, whether it's Spectrum or AT&T or something else.
Yep.
Are current providers, such as Spectrum, are they allowed, or are they invited to negotiate with you, or how does that work, or not?
So I believe that there's some period of exclusivity for the 2 ISPs that are on our network. That's in a completely different division than mine. But the likelihood of Spectrum or AT&T wanting to be on our network, I can't say there's a high likelihood of it. Could they be? Eventually, probably, yeah. It's an open access network. But our intention is to create competition with them. So, you know, if they want to ride our network, they've got to approach us from a business perspective, and then we can talk about it when the time is right.
Okay, and help me understand the installation.
Sure.
So I decide I'm going to jump. I want this great 1 gigabyte speed, et cetera.
Yep.
So I would contact one of those 2 to providers. They tell me how much it is, and they come and do they drill something through the sidewalk that gets up to my house? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so I'll walk through the process. So let's just for the first example, assume that you're in the city streets, okay?
Okay.
So you live on the city streets. We have, when we've passed by, we've put a little microduct drop that's something like this. We call this our little 6'3" microduct. There is a drop that's going to sit empty and capped basically at the edge of your private property and the public right-of-way. We make that drop in front of basically every home, in front of every business, outside of every HOA multifamily property. Okay, that drop is going to sit there empty until you decide that you want to order service. What you can do is you can go to our webpage and then reach out to both ISPs, or you can go to their individual Simi Valley pages and you can compare the pricing. Once you've decided that you want to sign up with one of the two ISPs, you just place a pre-order, and then what happens is once the area is ready to go live, which is going to happen later this year, they're going to contact you and say, okay, you're within a week or two, we're going to send a technician out. They're going to come meet with you as the homeowner. They're going to identify the location where this drop is at in front of your property. And as a homeowner, they're going to work with you to get it basically from the edge of the private property all the way to your house. The most common ways that I get asked are how do they do that? It's usually through the softscape. They can go underneath driveways. They can go under sidewalks. They can go through driveway seams, through sidewalk seams. There's all sorts of things that they can do to get that service basically from the public right-of-way to your house, but they're going to work with you as a homeowner to do that.
Okay, that's helpful. And do you guarantee, I mean, is there, obviously you're installing the entire city.
Yep.
And you have these two networks. Are they contractually obligated to provide anybody in Simi Valley that wants one? I mean, could they say, oh, it's just too difficult because, I guess not, do we have a guarantee that everyone really will?
It's a hard question to answer because you never know what lies in front of you. There might be something that it's a prohibition to getting the network across that. I'm going to give a weird example, but let's say that there's a high pressure gas line or a railway or something like that that's got a no crossing to it. And I don't know what that situation could be. The intent is to make a design where we can get to every home. That is our intention. But we don't know what we don't know yet. But the intention is to serve every single resident and make it available to every business, every HOA, every multifamily property.
Got it.
Yep.
And if I could just ask just a couple more questions about how secure, I'm thinking about the depth. How deep is this being placed? I mean, are people, as they're digging their tree, going to,
I pray that everybody digging their trees, and this is my 811 advertisement. If you're digging your trees, if you're digging in your yard, if you're going to do something, please call 811. We, as a provider, a service provider, we will respond to that. We will come out and we will mark it up in your yard along with all the other utilities that you have and all the other providers. They'll mark it up with that pane I discussed earlier, and then you'll avoid hitting that network.
Got it.
If it gets hit, our network is easily repairable. We just want to make sure that homeowners follow the right process so that they're not inadvertently damaging their own network.
Okay, thank you. And the depth in the street is how long?
About 12 inches deep, yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Mayor, if I may ask some questions?
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt anybody else. It's okay if I go now?
I'm sorry?
It's okay. I don't want to interrupt if anyone else has questions. Is that all right? I have several
No,
questions.
you're good.
Okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My first question is, can you please email me the presentation since I'm not physically there?
Yes.
I didn't get to see any of the slides. So if you can email it to me, well, to all of us, that would be wonderful. I'd appreciate that. Yes?
Yep, we'll get it to you.
Okay, here's my next question. You talked about closing the digital divide, which means that everyone, regardless of income status, has access to the internet. And as we know, with COVID and the pandemic, that we had a lot of us were working remotely, a lot of us were teaching and learning, and students, and educators were learning remotely. So, is there any kind of discount for low-income residents so that you can, in fact, close that digital divide? And is there any kind of discount for educators or students that now rely on internet to be able to, to do our jobs and to learn?
Yep. I'll answer the second one first. So the educators and students, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to get back to you. I know that the Fiber City Aid Program, it is designed for those families that are most vulnerable. So there will be more information forthcoming from both of our ISPs on how to support that, how to qualify for it, how to submit for it, and then, what the pricing will be. And like I said, the pricing for a gig will be somewhere probably around the $30 range for the full gig. And then, even with some additional support, it may even come down from there. So more to come on that, but that Fiber City Aid Program is something that's really important for closing that digital divide.
Okay, and then I would like to put that in your ear about educators and students. Educators are limited to a certain amount of $250 is all we get to write off for what we do, but I can't even do grades or take attendance without internet. So I would just like to put that in there.
Yeah.
My next question is, what kind of privacy is there for users' data? Because there's always that concern. I do like that this is a private entity. This is not something that the city or the government is running, because then we've seen in other places where they limit, access to certain, certain internet spaces and places and things like that. So I'd like to know what kind of security or privacy is there for users' data?
Yeah, so just the simple fact that this network is built and it's essentially underground makes the network just by nature more secure. In addition to that, it's fiber, so it's pulses of light. It's not electromagnetic frequencies that could be picked up off of, a copper wire or something like that. So, inherent to the technology, the network is very, very secure. It is a question that we get asked a lot. All of our cabinets are locked, all of our huts are locked and secured, and to the highest standards for security. But I think people's biggest concerns for data usually lie in the services that they're using on the internet or the things that they're opening in their email. So the more you safeguard those, the safer you're going to be. It's likely not going to happen from the network provider. So it's very, very secure.
Okay, here's my next question. You mentioned that that it's okay if there's some scars on the road or on the sidewalks because that'll be paved over. So I want to know, are you coordinating with our Public Works Department? Because we are repaving a lot of the streets. We have, funded millions of dollars to repave our streets. I want to make sure that you're not, tearing up streets that have already been repaved, that you're coordinating with our Public Works Department to make sure that that repaving is not something that we have to do after. So can you tell me if you are coordinating with our Public Works Department?
Yep, we do. And Brian, if you want to support me on this one, you can chime in. But
Yeah, we have regular conversations with Sci-Fi Networks to make sure that we let them know where we are, what the next streets projects are that we're doing, so they are aware and they get into the street before we start paving it. They were very cooperative in working with us on Cochrane, which is under construction today. They changed their path of construction in order to undertake that. The next one up is going to be Madera Road, which we should be going out to bid on within the next 90 days. And then we have our minor streets program that was just authorized not too long ago. So we'll be continuing our conversations with Sci-Fi to make sure they stay ahead of us on our street programs.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we got emails several weeks ago about private residents concerned, this was in public comments, about you encroaching upon their private property. So what kind of research do you do? Because you mentioned that you guys will put the drop all the way up to where the private property line is. So what kind of research are you guys doing to make sure that you're not encroaching on private property?
Well,
to place that drop?
Yeah, obviously we go through the public works process, so we submit plans for, all the work that's happening in the city streets. And, as part of those submissions, we understand where, the public right-of-way is, we understand where the setbacks are, where the private property lines start, and we try to take it right to the edge of where that private property line is so that when the resident decides that they want to order service, it's the easiest pathway to get it to them. So we do work hand in hand with the Public Works Department to determine all of that information.
Okay, and I love that you mentioned to our residents not to dig before they call 811. Thank you very much for that PSA. My last question is, and I'm assuming, I know the answer to this, but just for the public's knowledge, how are you coordinating with other utilities to make sure that you're not, that you guys are not doing that? Not just private residents when they're digging, planting trees and things like that, but what are you doing to coordinate with utilities to make sure that there's no interruption?
So we obviously have to abide by all the safe dig laws that are out there. You know, we notify 811 of the pathway that we're going to be digging in. A lot of times when we're coming into a neighborhood, you'll see white paint marks go down that indicate the path and the direction that we're going to be taking the network. Then we call in for 811 to respond to those. They go to the respective area. Every utility has to positive respond to that area before we actually dig so that we can dig safely around all those utilities. And that's the purpose when you see those paint marks down on the ground, is so that we can dig safely. Okay? Hopefully that answered it. Okay?
Okay, and then, I'm sorry, one more question. This is my last question. Thank you, Mayor. Very last question. I am a city council member, so I'm always looking out for the city and our residents as well. Should there be, Councilmember Kavanaugh mentioned that, there were cables that were sticking out. If there is, someone, in a wheelchair or, someone who's just not paying attention, trips over that, is that something that you're paying for, or is that the city that's liable for that if those wires are sticking out and it's on public?
I need the city attorney on this one. No, I mean, obviously, we pray that that doesn't happen, but, we have to create a safe environment in the streets. And so, if we have a situation like that, we're obviously going to respond to the resident right away and get an understanding for exactly what happened. Hopefully, we didn't leave a hazard in the road. We do our very best. We have a lot of due diligence, including, multiple QA, QC checkpoints to determine whether things are safe, if they can be left in a specific condition, things like that. If there's something that gets missed and there's an accident that happens, we'll respond appropriately. It's hard for me to judge that situation. I hope you understand that. And we pray that that situation doesn't happen.
I suspect we probably have indemnification language, Councilmember Luevanos.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if you can send that to me, I just want to make sure that we are covered, protecting the taxpayer here. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions? No, thank you all. Appreciate your time. All right.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 3C1, informational presentation by Youth Council Chair Rahul Naveen.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Let me begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to all of you for your continued support and involvement with the Youth Council. My name is Rahul Naveen, and I'm an Oak Park High School graduate and will be majoring in neuroscience at the University of Southern California in the fall. Fight on. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve as Youth Council Chair during my third term, working with some of the most motivated and talented young people in and around our Simi Valley community. Our May 17th meeting at the Simi Valley Senior Center convened at the busiest time of the school year. Amidst AP exams, finals, and year-end school projects, the perseverance and dedication of this term's Youth Council representatives were showcased by the success of our Whodunit Escape Room fundraiser. I would like to extend a massive thank you to the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District, especially Recreation Coordinator Dave DeMaio and Recreation Supervisor Danielle June for helping to coordinate this event at Barrelwood Park's Teen Game Center on April 23rd. This event would not have been possible without their hospitality, kindness, and support of the Park District, who were generous enough to host several of our meetings this year and provide facility tours to make this event and future RSRPD collaborations with the Youth Council the best they can be. As a testament to the event's success, we were pleasantly surprised by an excess of participation, the best problem to have, and received only positive feedback about the escape room's puzzles, organization, and collaborative environment. The fundraising committee worked hard to make this event happen, and we were glad to see it all come to fruition with fun, friends, and a stack of cash for the Youth Council wallet. The biggest order of business coming out of the prior mentioned meeting was the planning and execution of the 4th annual Simi Valley Community Talent Show and Silent Auction held on Friday, May 20th. The Simi Valley Cultural Arts Center was so gracious to offer us their gorgeous venue space to host our event and kindly helped with all the logistics and planning needed to make the show a success. After working through a show run-through on Wednesday, May 18th, the event was an incredible success on Friday night, showcasing 12 group and individual performances in the categories of contemporary dance, vocals, and musicianship. And the best part, All the performers were local community members with fantastic talents that they were beyond eager to share. Congratulations to all our participants for their amazing performances, and a heartfelt thank you to our judges Anthony Angelini, Candace Gray, and Lyndon Apostle for their encouraging words that night. Finally, this event would not have been possible without our Simi Valley community. Thank you to everyone who was able to come out and support the blossoming talent of Simi Valley and witness the talent the city holds. Your generous contributions to show tickets, concessions, raffle tickets, and silent auction items will go a long way towards helping the Youth Council sponsor future community events such as our Suicide Prevention Rock Painting Night, anti-bullying campaigns, Youth Summit, and many other bigger, better, and more ambitious activities to come. We concluded our term with a final bittersweet meeting on June 7th. Simi Valley Police Department Emergency Services Coordinator Corinne Bridges shared an exciting opportunity to assist Simi Valley residents with disaster preparedness education and training. The Community Emergency Response Team Program, or the CERT program as it is called, aims to educate community members in basic preparedness and response skills, reducing hazards, search and rescue, and treatment evaluation. The program, run in collaboration with the Ventura County Fire Department and Police Department, is now recruiting 12 to 17-year-olds, but is open to anyone 12 years and older. It's important to note that all participants under the age of 18 must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. For more information on course details and dates, please visit volunteer.vcfd.org to sign up for an incredible opportunity. In addition, young adult librarian David Rosenberg introduced this year's summer reading program themed Read Beyond the Beaten Path, focusing on human interaction and inspiration from and with the natural world. In addition to getting back into an in-person summer reading program, Mr. Rosenberg is excited to begin hosting escape rooms for teens at the Simi Valley Public Library in the upcoming weeks. Stay tuned for more details. We also established a Teen Crisis Resource Number Review Committee who met on Zoom to verify, add, and amend the crisis hotline numbers that will be printed on the backs of all ID cards for youth attending middle and high school in our community. These numbers were called to confirm services and provide resources for suicide prevention, self-harm prevention, LGBTQ+ counseling, mental health, and much more. The work done by those in the committee will ultimately serve as a valuable resource for all those students and youth who need them most in the upcoming school year. We concluded our meeting by reflecting on all that the Simi Valley Youth Council has accomplished together this past term. From the Youth Symposium to the talent show to the escape rooms, this term has undoubtedly been one of our busiest and most accomplished terms in Simi Valley Youth Council history. We have expanded our outreach to work with several community organizations, including RSRPD, the Simi Valley Public Library, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Institute, and BRIGHT, or Building Resilience and Inclusion Through Engagement, all of whom we are beyond thankful to have partnered with on various events and are excited to continue our partnership with in the future. I'm so proud of this term's representatives for spearheading initiatives within our many subcommittees and taking the necessary steps to make a positive impact on our community. From drafting a proposal to make Discord Youth Council's primary means of communication early in the term, to establishing an initiative for mental health on school campuses, this term of representatives has done so much to act on the concerns of their constituents. Each and every member has worked incredibly hard to represent the youth of our community, and their leadership, dedication, and desire to help are the reason for the successes we have seen this past term. Again, I am so thankful to have been a part of such a phenomenal group of motivated peers and to have made such an impact on our community. We also had a special surprise by receiving certificates of recognition from the California State Assemblywoman Suzette Martinez Valadares to celebrate all of our hard work and dedication to the Youth Council. The certificates thanked us for our commitment, giving back to the community, and that our leadership was an inspiration and example to follow. Beyond all that, I would like to extend a thank you to David Yoshitomi, Anna Medina, and of course, our Youth Council Coordinator, Kristen Tiniak, for all of their behind-the-scenes work online and in person to give our community's youth a voice and an opportunity to be heard. None of this would have been possible without their passion, help, and organization, and for that, I believe I speak for all of us when I say we are eternally grateful. And of course, I would like to extend a massive thank you to our City Council liaisons to the Youth Council, Mayor Mashburn and Mayor Pro Tem Litster, for attending our meetings and for all your support throughout this term. As per tradition, I would like to close by asking that everyone follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Simi Valley Youth Council, if you haven't already, to stay updated on upcoming events and service projects that you can be involved with. Thank you so much, Mayor Bashburn and members of the City Council, for having me. It was an honor to present to you, and I am more than happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Council Member Litster has a question for you, or probably statements and questions.
A little of both. I will tell you that it wasn't, I think it's been an honor attending many of the meetings and seeing you in action as a chairman. I will say for those, you can tell by his speaking role is in control and is very thoughtful. You have been a marvelous leader, and I was so impressed with the first or second meeting, you knew everyone's name. And I don't know how you mastered it, but you clearly cared about your cabinet and worked with all of them, and you were respectful for all of them, and I was very impressive. Now, we chat up here a little bit. Now, you did say that you're going to USC, and you're majoring probably in neuroscience, which I wanted to find out, just to be sure. It's kind of like biology on steroids.
You could say that.
And I don't know if you know this, I'm a UCLA grad, but I'm not going to hold it against you. So I just want you to know that I commend you for just all that you've done, and for our city, for our youth council, and you. I'll look, if I need brain surgery in a few years, I know where to go. So we appreciate you. Thank you. What's that? You're an SC grad too? Oh,
And he needs brain surgery.
That's okay.
Okay, Rahul, I'd just like to say that watching you has been a pleasure. Your demeanor just screams leadership. I mean, and then your people that work under you, it shows that they take it that way also. But it's really great to send somebody from Simi Valley to SC that has the leadership qualities you do. So always remember the Simi Valley. Let them know you're from here. And but thank you so much for your service.
Just thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to all of you for your support throughout this term. It's been a blast, and always I'll be here to support whenever necessary. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ready for the next item, but I have one thing I'd like to say is I think when the neighborhood council appointees came through, I failed to give the term, I now appoint you. And not wanting to violate some kind of Brown Act or Green Act or some act, now I've done it correctly. They are officially appointed by the mayor.
There you go.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 4, public statements. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Councils, there are no public hearings under agenda item 5 this evening. Agenda items 4 and 6 are combined this evening. And the council will hear all public statements under agenda item 4. Agenda items 4 and agenda item number 6 are items allotted for public statements, and all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted. To speak for a public statements item 4 for no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any other comments, we can begin public statements.
Ready for the first speaker.
Okay, our first speaker is Sharon Lukowski. Sharon Lukowski, yes.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Lurkowski. I'm a resident of Simi Valley. I'm the current board member and past president of the Simi Valley Education Foundation. I'm here with a sincere plea for City Council and Community Projects Grant Committee to reconsider its allocations and/or use of any discretionary funds that may be available to include the Simi Valley Education Foundation's grant request for project Open a Book and You Open a Mind. This grant would help purchase novels and graphic novels for the Simi Valley Unified School District's elementary, middle, and high school libraries to provide a robust, up-to-date collection of print materials that will help give our students the best chance to succeed. I understand that the committee had a great task in reviewing the 19 final grant applications that came in, and that the nationally recognized organizations stand out and therefore garner the majority of allocation funding. And for a smaller local community organizations, it's so tough to compete and so disappointing to be overlooked. And that's why I'm here. In comparison to these national recognized organizations and their actual impact specifically in Simi Valley, Please note the impact of the Simi Valley Education Foundation project that will reach the approximately 17,000 students of the Simi Valley Unified School District. This impact is not only invaluable, it's exponential, not only in the life of the students themselves, but in the community these students will impact in the years to come. This grant would impact approximately 17,000 Simi Valley students in our community, 19 elementary schools, 9 middle and high schools, 1 independent school in Simi Valley. We were blessed to be awarded grant funds in 2018-2019 before the pause of COVID. This fiscal year, we were overlooked. Again, I'm here to implore you to reconsider allocation to at least the minimum of $10,000. The need. In an era of tightening budgets and lack of federal support, our school libraries need to receive continued financial support. Today, many of our Simi Valley Public School libraries are filled with old and dated books that need updating and/or replacing. Example, average copyright date of Parkview's collection is 1998. That's 23 years old. Average of the nonfiction is between 16 and 39 years old. I could go on with stats. Literacy is the cornerstone of every student's development. It leads to better health, better employment opportunities, safer, more stable societies. In closing, I believe that by funding school libraries, Simi Valley Education Foundation, with the assistance of the Community Projects Grant, will truly make a difference in our students' lives and in their future while benefiting the City of Simi Valley's future workforce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Bamforth? No, Mr. Doug Bamforth? Sorry.
What was that? I'm sorry. I thought.
Douglas, yes.
This takes me a while.
Good evening. Boy, it was great seeing another young person here. Wonderful. Week before, I think it was 2 weeks before, we had the robotics team here, world champion. Wow. We're doing great. However, there's always that. I'd like to talk to you about my favorite subject, water. Basically, the California Aqueduct was built in 1960s and the early 70s. And the same as the pipeline going from the Colorado River over to Los Angeles. At that time, they expected, with normal growth and stuff, that it would reach, in the future, 27 million people. Well, we're a little over that by a lot. We also, at that time, there was a lot of open land. Now, that's agriculture for most of it. I better get my glasses on here. I have to read some. I'm sorry. Now, let's talk about the new construction in Simi Valley. How can we keep adding construction being ordered by the state of California, okay, and we're not having enough water even as it is? As the gentleman that was up here earlier with the Wi-Fi, I hope they show me how to use it, connection thing, he was talking about quality of life. Well, our quality of life is disappearing with every little drop. The city, one of its main jobs is to provide a good quality of life for its residents. Okay? This is what I think needs to be done, in my opinion. Humble. I feel that this city, or in conjunction with a few other cities, should file a lawsuit against the state of California for dereliction of duty by not providing what the citizens need. They've known about it for a long time, and they've always kept putting it off. I'm going to go now because my little light's shining. So, thank you very much.
Jesse Juarez? Jesse Juarez?
Good evening. My name is Jesse Juarez, and I'm the site program lead for the Simi Valley Youth Room run by Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ventura County. I'm speaking tonight in support of the panel's recommendation to award our program $15,000 and ask that the City Council vote in favor of their recommendation. Attendance at our Simi Valley Youth Room continues to grow, and our plan is to grow our programs with it. The funding will help support program and case managers, as well as we introduce new skill building opportunities like peer mediation and much more one-to-one match activities. We know that creating lifelong bonds break negative cycles of adversity. Big Brothers Big Sisters is proud to serve the city of Simi Valley and its youth at the Simi Valley Youth Room, and we hope that these programs continue to grow for many years to come. Thank you for your consideration and support.
Scott Mosher?
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, council members. My name is Scott Mosher. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Boys and Girls Club of Moore Park and Simi Valley. I reside in Moore Park, but my office is here in Simi Valley. And I'm speaking also in favor of item 9A. The Boys and Girls Club submitted a grant for a 15-passenger van for our Simi Valley location clubhouse, which will provide young people in Simi Valley access to critical youth development programs after school and throughout the school year. We have a number of vehicles. We transport from every elementary school in Simi Valley, with the exception of 3 when we have on-site programs at. Currently, 4 of our vehicles are right up above 25 years old. And so obviously it's we're at a point that even though they've held up so well, it's about time for us to be looking at changing some of these out. One of the benefits, I think, in terms of this being a really great investment is the fact that we are looking at about a 20-year life on these. It will literally impact thousands of kids over the next 20 years. And so we respectfully ask for your, to approve the staff recommendation and certainly appreciate all the city's support. Thank you so much.
John Lapper?
Mayor Mashburn and City Council, good evening. I will be brief tonight. It's been a traumatic couple weeks for our nation, and frankly, I have little tolerance to be here tonight and think about Councilman Mike Judge potentially being on the dais for another 4 years. Mike Judge represents guns, anti-women's choice, and his personal freedom in politics over the good of our country, which truly disturbs me. Mike Judge's endorsement of Fred Thomas for mayor gives me even less hope for change in Simi Valley. Change that includes fiscal responsibility, inclusivity for all residents of Simi Valley, and correcting the negative image that Mike Judge has brought to our fine city for 12 long years now. I hope, as Frank Thomas wrote to me, I am my own man. I hope so. I encourage candidates to come forward and run for city council in districts 2 and 4. I might add, the only time Mike Judge does speak up is to contest Bruce Boyer's concealed carry rant. Lastly, an issue which I have raised for almost a year now to no avail. Even meeting with Mayor Mashburn, dealing with dangerous fireworks, and I'm not talking about safe and sane sparklers. 0 fireworks citations have been issued the last 2 years by Simi Valley Police Department. Hundreds of complaints 0 citations the last 2 years. I commend Police Chief Livingstone for saying the department is going to do better this year. The fireworks already have been active for the last couple weeks. And with Simi Fireworks Show on July 2nd, the abusive ones have been allowed to set off aerial fireworks for years. I fear they will continue, especially since Mayor Mashburn, Councilman Judge, Councilwoman Kavanaugh, and Mayor Pro Tem Litzer voted no to local civil penalties, which would have lent teeth to the Simi Valley PD enforcement and effort to thwart the dangerous fireworks. Councilman Kavanaugh doesn't understand that concept. The same policies adopted by the city of Oxnard. So I pray for a safe 4th of July for all of our residents of Simi Valley, including our precious pets, houses, and our beautiful surrounding hills. Thank you, City Council.
Thank you.
David Griggs.
Good evening. My name is David Griggs. I have been a member of Simi Valley for 16 years. I currently reside in Simi Country Estates, Mike Judge's area. And I want to talk about the solar project that's going on there and what they're planning on doing. Is they putting up solar panels and they're going to sell the electricity back to the residents for a profit and keep it for themselves. I'm not allowed to put solar on my property, and they're going to go and profit from me. This project is currently in the planning stages and so far has been shelved because of permits. But they've also, the Country Estates has also eliminated all of the ADA parking in the place. There's no ADA parking inside the Country Estates. They have removed the RV parking and placed the RVs inside the park. And I believe this is fire lanes, but the fire lanes are not marked. And they're placed in such a way that unless you drive the place, you can't see them. So there's been a lot of corruption with the management. My wife and I have had nothing but trouble with them. And they've held our checks back without letting us know because we were not in compliance, in violation of our contract. And, this isn't fair to us. And I just wish something could be done. Also, and John Lapper, you'd appreciate this. The management lights fireworks off every year. We find the scarring on the ground every year from the fireworks. And some of these may be safe and sane, but I've seen the stuff that goes up in the air on the ground as well. And if you know anything about our trailer parks, there's tinder boxes. One goes up, they all go up. And for the management to be lighting these things off is not fair to us as homeowners. So I wanted to let you know about that and the ADA violations. And, I'm not opposed to solar, but don't sell it to me, don't force your sale to me for a profit. You're going to sell your excess electricity back to the power company and then profit from me? Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Alberto Vasquez.
My name is Alberto, and I'm a resident of Simi Valley, and I'm also I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. I thank God for the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and I'm a conservative, which is the reason why I'm here. I'm a concerned citizen. It's heartbreaking to see our city just dying. There's no businesses. There's a lot of closed businesses. And my family and I often have to either travel to the Valley or to Thousand Oaks to just to do businesses, like go to a restaurant. So I just here to just voice that concern, and I'm hoping that between all of us, you and the community, can come to a way to attract more businesses, attract more investment in this community, with the exception of the marijuana shops. We don't want any of that stuff here, but we do want to revive our Simi Valley. We like our city. It used to be pretty conservative. It used to be pretty safe. We 100% support our police, but things have changed. Things have changed. So I want to make sure that I voice my concern, because it just seems that somehow, some way, the leadership has taken a different turn, just based on what we've seen. And also, I want to implore you too that please do not give in to the tyranny of Sacramento or Ventura or the county of Ventura, because as we know, there's going to be more mandates coming down, more lockdowns coming down, but it's up to us to stand against that. So please, if that ever happens, which I'm sure it will, that we would be resilient, that from a city perspective, that we build a strong economy so that we do not have to rely on the tyrant in Sacramento. It's heartbreaking to see us giving into that. And also another pain point for me is that just driving around town, it's always heartbreaking to just drive my vehicle in these deteriorated streets. I don't know what's taking so long. I know you guys started to work on that, but for the past 11 years that we lived here, it's just things have gotten worse and worse. Again, I'm not sure if it's a bad management or lack of funds, but it just seems that it's just taking a little longer for those repairs on the streets to be performed. So, and again, I appreciate that now things are rolling on, but it took a little longer than I expected. And again, it's a pain point for me because I'm paying taxes faithfully as a citizen of this nation, of this community. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for being here to watch me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bruce Boyer.
Good evening, Bruce Boyer again. Well, for those that are not regulars, I'll tell you, we've been here talking about restoring our Second Amendment rights in Simi Valley all year. And we're not getting any traction from the city council. Being told, oh, go to the sheriff's and get a concealed carry permit. He'll give you one unless you got a felony. Nah, that's not true. That's not true. You know, that's not true. He puts it up on his website. He's got a whole list of requirements that if you have excessive traffic violations or a tax lien or a bankruptcy or a judgment, you're not getting one. So while some city council members, my judge, said, well, you just go get one unless you have a felony, that's not exactly true. I'm not going to accuse you of being reckless in your statements because it's now kind of a moot point because the Supreme Court has affirmed that, yes, we, the people, have the right to keep and bear arms in public. Yes. So you guys don't have to do anything. It's done. The Supreme Court stepped in and recognized that this is our right. As I pointed out, since Joe Biden moved into Pennsylvania Avenue, 9 states came on as constitutional carry, puts us at 25. Well, now we're constitutional carry across America. But what needs to be clarified is how that plays out. How is it going to play out in Simi Valley? We have a right, so what if we don't sit in the back of the bus? We going to get cuffed? Need to hear from Chief Livingston. The city council, I would suggest, should hold a public information forum. You've got a meeting coming up in a month, gives you plenty of time, so that we, the people, know what our rights are, know what the law is, so that when people see somebody with a holstered firearm, they can go, oh yeah, that's their right. That's the law. That person knows that they're not going to get arrested and find out how it all plays out. Now, there's a lot that's going to happen in the next month. We're going to hear from the Attorney General, what our 58 county sheriffs are going to say, but we also need to know what's going to happen in Simi Valley, USA. So I would ask the council to agenda for the next meeting a public information forum so that people can ask questions, express their concerns, and we can all know what the situation is for the people in our liberty in Simi Valley now that our Second Amendment has been restored. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Kathy Layton.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just wanted to express my objection to any future thoughts of having Zoom meetings automatically in the city council meetings. I think it would mess up the meetings. You don't know where the Zoom caller is coming from. And second, I just wanted to find out, I don't know the reason why Ms. Luavanos was absent from the meeting, but I understand last month that the pride flag was turned down to be flying in our city because of rules, and she's absent, but she's flying her flag, her pride flag. And I just wanted to say that I think it slaps the face of the people of Simi Valley and everybody on this dais. Thank you.
Joe Pachowski? Joe Pachowski?
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. Tonight I wanted to talk about water. We're in a water emergency. And as I drive around our city, I see a lot of both neighbors and a lot of businesses and other areas getting watered when they shouldn't be. Now, I'm not concerned so much about my friends and neighbors. I'll talk to them privately and encourage, make sure that they understand what's going on. But when I drive down Madera Road and see the 76 gas station watering their non-functional turf at night, or drive down Madera Road coming off of Wood Ranch Parkway and see the grass that's there adjacent to the CVS property being watered, at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, that's a problem. We need to be, we're facing a situation where none of us are going to be able to water our own lawns if we don't cut back as early as September, from what we heard from the representatives from Callegas just a few meetings ago. And, the other night I saw a piece of non-functional turf being watered right at the entrance to Wood Ranch Golf Club on Wood Ranch Parkway. And I think the city council needs to step up and take some action and start doing something to at least enforce the non-watering of non-functional turf. And it really needs to be done, and it needs to be done yesterday. I know that as a general, after the past 2 years of dealing with COVID mandates, everybody's kind of mandated out. And that's why I'm not up here suggesting that we should be doing this to individuals. There's reasonability in terms of doing something like that, in my opinion. But properties that are owned by HOAs, by commercial businesses, by, I don't even know who behind CVS. I don't know if that's HOA property. I don't know if it's city property. I don't know who owns the property. But something needs to be done to stop this wasting of water that's going on for the non-functional turf that's being watered still almost a month after the fact, since the ban on non-functional turf being watered went into effect. I know that I contacted my own HOA when it seemed like they weren't going to be complying, and they are supposedly now complying. And that's my time for tonight. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Suzanne Grizel?
So good evening, Mayor Mashburn, council members. My name is Suzanne Grizel, and I've been a resident of Simi Valley since 2007. I'm also a volunteer at the Samaritan Center, which has responsibility, I know many of you are probably familiar with it, to collect and distribute food boxes for our food insecure individuals, families, and children, our homeless that live here in Simi Valley. So I'm here in support of the Samaritan Center's application for funding from the Simi Community Grant to be used for a used but newer vehicle to support us with food share pickup and distribution of food items. I have a short story to share. About 3 weeks ago, after a full day of work in the pantry, we received a call for a generous donation from one of our local stores, to which, of course, we said yes. However, when the staff went to go do the pickup, to go to the truck wouldn't start, and as much as we tried, we could not get it to run. And we missed the pickup that afternoon, and we've missed others. So what does that mean in practical terms? I'll just highlight 3 things. First, the organizations or companies that we work with, it's important that we are consistent in our commitments to pick up food. Otherwise, that food we were going to pick up becomes a problem for them to deal with, and the potential they may not call us next time. We have to meet our commitments, and the sometimes, actually frequently, unreliable truck that we have now stops us sometimes from meeting those commitments. The food in question that we're intended to pick up goes to waste, which in today's environment of inflation and high food costs is a terrible shame. And lastly, and actually most importantly, we have less food to distribute, which means fewer boxes and fewer meals. And this impacts individuals and families that are already facing very difficult circumstances and choices when it comes to medical care, housing, and food. When I looked today, so thankful for the committee for recognizing the Samaritan Center's needs. And the committee has recommended that $30,000 be allocated to the Samaritan Center. There's a different recommendation from the staff that the center receives really zero, but actually pursues different funding, which we know is not guaranteed. It may be likely, but not guaranteed. So, lastly, I would like to state that how we support our homeless community or food insecure individuals or families is a direct reflection on us as a community. And I'm so proud of Simi in this regard and everything that we do. So thank you for your consideration in this matter and considering funds for a truck for the Samaritan Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last speaker, Robbie Hidalgo.
I don't know if that's prescient to be called the last speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council people, virtual council people, Mr. Gabler and Mr. Caceres. I'd like to speak briefly to 2 issues. One is a follow-up on the commenter just before me. I did note, by the way, with full disclosure, I am a resident of Simi Valley for 34 years, involved in local nonprofits, have been a recipient of prior community project grant funding, but our organization did not apply, nor are we being funded this year. But I did take note in the staff report that there was a recommendation to defund one of the entities that was selected by the selection committee for the community project grant. One can only assume from the vernacular in the table that the recommendation to defund was related to the potential for ARPA funding. But one of the things that I noticed is that the ARPA budget, which has been out, proposed ARPA budget, which has been out since February, highlights other organizations that are currently executing an agreement to receive a community project grant. So it seems to me that based on that recommendation, we should try to find some uniformity. If organizations that may qualify for ARPA funding or should be disqualified from community project grant funding, they probably should have been let known before they crafted grants and defended their projects, but they should all be defunded if that's the case. And if not, I think we should follow the recommendation of the selection committee for the prior 3 years. Most of you know the Free Clinic Project took all the community project grant funding. So it'd be nice to let our nonprofits just get at the funds without a lot of push and pull this year. The second issue that I wanted to talk about is there's been a lot of talk in the community recently about our franchise solid waste contract, which is coming up for renewal next year. And I recently read a letter in the Acorn, I believe, by former Councilman Glenn Becerra. And I was concerned because I saw that his letter called for the city to request an RFP for the upcoming franchise contract renewal period. Now, I've checked the ordinance, and Mr. Caceres can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no obligation for us to put out an RFP, and an RFP will probably cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars to execute. Those are costs, as another previous speaker had mentioned, that could be allocated towards economic development or other areas of city need that in this case I think would be somewhat superfluous. I have, as a metaphor, had the same hairstylist for the last 25 years. Now, you can reserve your opinions about that. I know that's popular opinion, but although I can go get my hair done for maybe $5 or $10 less somewhere else, I don't. And I think most people in the community can relate to that concept. The reason that I don't is because I'm perfectly satisfied with the service that I have. And another disclaimer, I am not any relationship to our current waste management organization, which is Waste Management, other than I pay them a bill every month, and I have been on a tour as a chaperone with one of the schools. But Waste Management tonight will be supporting at least 9 or 10 of our local nonprofits. The partnership we've had with them has been incredibly important to this community. I would like to discourage council, even though we've got a year, from considering an RFP for that particular contract. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 4A, City Council comments regarding the public statements.
Okay, Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To address Mr. Lapper's comments, the reason I don't address your comments on most council meeting evenings is I don't want other citizens in this city to think they can't come here and talk about me. I have no problem with you talking about me because most of what you say is lies. So I don't care, and it doesn't affect my community. The reason I address Mr. Boyer's comment is because it does affect my community. Our citizens are able to go get a CCW from our sheriff's office. They can do that anytime they want. There were preconceived reasons that you couldn't get it. Those may be gone now because of the Supreme Court's decision. That's why I do what I do.
Mayor, I'd like to respond if I may.
Yes, you may.
I would like to respond to Ms. Layton's comment. I am present. I am present because of the emergency ordinance. I did test positive for COVID several days ago. I still have several family members that are testing positive for COVID, and that's exactly why the emergency ordinance was passed, because we're not done with COVID yet. COVID is not done with us. We're not done with COVID, and therefore out of an abundance of caution, especially for my fellow council members and those that are present, I opted to call in via Zoom so that I could still participate, which is the purpose of the California emergency ordinance, so that we can continue to function as a local government. And as far as the flag is concerned, my First Amendment rights do not end. I was wearing pride glasses at the last city council meeting, and there was a specific task force that was formed by Youth Council, by our Simi Valley Youth Council, to support LGBTQ youth. And as far as I can do that, I will continue to do so to make sure that our most underserved and most at-risk youth know that they are supported in the city. In terms of Mr. Pachowski's, thank you so much for talking about the water emergency. I agree there needs to be some enforcement. It's one thing to pass a law, it's another thing to enforce it. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I will be bringing that up as a 10B item to actually have enforcement. And in terms of the recommendations for the fireworks, I too would like to know if there have been any citations issued, because it is very cumbersome emotionally for a lot of, and psychologically for a lot of our residents, our veterans, our residents with PTSD, our pets, and our students with special needs, to have fireworks going off at all hours of the day or night. We did have a resident who came and spoke with regard to a specific country estates park where apparently they do shoot off fireworks. I would suggest that be a place of enforcement. And I want to thank everyone for coming to speak tonight. I can't speak anymore because I have very limited time, but thank you everyone who came out and spoke tonight and participated in your local government. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually would like to echo, I'm very appreciative of all the varied comments, and we are listening, and just sorry that we cannot address them all, but many things that we need to discuss and agendize. Just a couple quick things. Mr. Bamforth, your point about our water shortage and the inadequacy of the current system and the requirement that we continue to build is very prescient, and I know it concerns us. And what authority we have to rectify that, I don't know, but we'll continue to discuss that. Mr. Griggs, you spoke about some of your frustrations you're experiencing at the country estates. I do know that the solar project that you've referenced, we had concerns and there's reasons it was stopped. I'm hopeful that there can be some resolution, but I hope that we can further explore some of your frustrations there. Many great thoughts about the waste management's funding, grant funding that's coming forward. I want actually Mr. Hidalgo to know that regardless of whether we go forward with an RFP in the future, I don't believe that's separate. It doesn't stop this wonderful program. They would be continuing in some capacity, but I'm not saying I'm a proponent one way or the other, but I just want to be encouraging that doesn't stop this great relationship. Comments that were made about the different various nonprofit uses. Clearly, there are a lot of people doing a lot of good. I think we will be discussing more, and I want to specifically address Ms. Suzanne Grizel's comments, but I think probably all that should be done when we get to the agenda item. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you. None from Kavanaugh. Okay, from me, Mr. Griggs, I would suggest that you contact our planning director, Stratus Peros. You can get his number off of the website, the city website, and he would have the information maybe that you're looking for. I think that's where I would start. And you could always go up from there if you're not satisfied. I forgot who spoke of the streets. Yeah, we're well aware of the streets, and we're doing what we can. It's a long process, unfortunately. Sometimes bureaucrat systems you think is holding everything up, and it certainly could be. However, bureaucratic systems also are there to protect the public. So not making excuses, just saying we're aware of it and working on it. Mrs. Layton, I think you probably meant the open Zoom meetings. This particular Zoom we have, I think, is just restricted to Councilmember Luevanos, and she's right in that it's the emergency abilities that we have because of COVID, which is a good ability. However, you're so correct. It's absolutely not good to open them up to the world. We don't need to hear from the world here. We need to hear from Simi Valley residents. Water. I couldn't agree more. I asked the manager of Caligas, why are we continue building? Why do they continue saying there is water when certainly doesn't appear to be water? And then when I watched the PowerPoint presentation, I myself on my own figured out the problem. It's the state water project, and they're building trains and stuff. They're not providing water. Mr. Lapper, I agree with Mike Judge. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you speak. I wish you'd speak the truth. And that's it.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 7, the consent calendar, and there are no resolutions for your consideration this evening.
Mayor, I'd like to pull some items.
Okay.
I'd like to pull items 1, 3, 4, 5, and 8. I just have brief questions on them.
1, 3, 4,
5, and 8.
It's 142.
Adding.
Somebody got a hold of my computer. Okay, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 8.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to move?
Mr. Judge?
Yeah. He'll be back. But do you want to move approval for 2, 7, and 9?
Yes.
2, 6, 7, and 9.
I'll second.
Yes.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve.
So I
consent
so moved,
items.
yes.
I'm sorry?
I so moved. 2, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 2, 6,
Okay,
I pulled 8.
7, and 9.
2, 6, 7, and 9. Okay. So we'll call for the vote.
Please vote yes for me.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote without my motion and second. Call for the vote.
We're waiting for Councilmember Judge. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, questions on consent 1? That would be Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we're going to be on break. I'd like to know, what is the financial limit for these contracts? Like, can you pass $1 million contract while we're on? What, there have to be limits, right? What are the limits?
There are contract limits within the municipal code on various different topics. This also where contract extensions are allowed, it also allows the authority to extend those contracts.
Okay, so you don't know the amount? You don't know what the what it's?
I don't know them off the top of my head, but we have legal review of each one of these as they were to come through.
It's hard for me to vote yes on something when I don't know if we're approving, yes, you can spend $5 million or, $10,000, or that's why I'd like to know what the financial limits are. We do this every year, so I would assume that you would know, or someone on staff would know.
Yeah, these are all extensions of existing contracts, I'll note also.
And interesting to note that no one was willing to sign a 2-year extension. These are all, because, at least as I read the report.
Costs are out of control.
That cost, because of costs, that the customary 2-year extension, they're not willing to do that. So this is just kind of a short-term extension, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Given the fact that they were extensions, it probably implies that these contracts were either previously approved by the city council or by the city manager.
They were all previously approved. That's correct.
Okay. So can we just get a report after we return and after from our break? Can we get a report just how much exactly was spent for transparency?
Correct. It notes in the bottom of page 2 that on the July 25th agenda will be a rehash of all actions that were taken during the break.
Okay, and that'll have the amount that was spent as well?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. I'm just asking for transparency.
Okay, number 2, or excuse me, 3. Consent 3.
Number 6.
Oh,
I'm sorry, 3.
3.
Yes.
Yes, I'm curious as to why we need this extra money and where this money is coming from. Is it coming from the general fund? Is it coming from reserve? Did we not? I'm curious as to if, because in the report it says we want $3 million more, but we're going to make that money back. So can you explain to me, like, are we floating the money and then we're going to get it back? Can you explain that to me?
Certainly. This is a cleanup of a budget that we've corrected in next year's budget. So we budget a certain amount of money to purchase water from Callegas. When the residents purchase more water than we budgeted, we have to correct the budget number. So this is an in and an out where we are correcting the budget to the amount of money that we've been paid by the residents for the water. So it's a budget correction. It's not an expense to the city because we've already collected the money from the customers that are using it.
Okay, so we've collected $33 million. $3 million. Is that what you're saying? But we only authorized $30 million in expenditures?
We are needing to increase the budget by $3 million once we do the final audit of what we have collected, then the budget will be adjusted by that much. So if the residents only purchase another $2.7 million, the budget will be adjusted by $2.7 million.
Okay, so we're just authorizing $3 million more. So does that mean that our residents use more water than we expected that they would use? Did our water usage go up?
They used we did not budget enough, and it is possible that they have used more water.
But also, isn't it possible that the water prices from Kaigas, have they?
No,
is,
the
it-
prices
that's not,
haven't.
is the
Yeah,
price
we've-
is set?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay, so
it's,
water usage,
it's a prediction on July 30th, or actually in March, of how much water we're going to spend over the next year. And you know, what we have found the last several years, we have under budgeted, and so this is a correction to the budget.
so for next year's budget, have we corrected to reflect that? Or are we expecting that residents are going to use less water? Because from Mr. Pachowski's comment, it doesn't seem like that's the case.
The correction is, instead of going back to the council every time, it allows the district manager to adjust the budget number to reflect what we've actually sold and the revenue that's actually been received.
Okay, I would simply like I would like for the future, for this report and other reports, to have a comparison. If the increase is because of usage and not cost, then I would like that reflected in the report. I would like that kind of transparency and accountability. Can we get that sent to us, and can we get that included in future reports?
Sure.
Okay, can I get a deadline by when we're going to get that? Like a month, a week, a day?
Well, we have to do a final accounting of all the water that's been sold. We haven't closed out the year yet. So when the year is closed, July 1, we will do an accounting of how much money we needed to spend, which would equal how much revenue came in.
Okay, and we can get, because the cost is a reflection of increased water usage. So that's what I would like to see. I would like to see over the past 3 or 5 years, how much water usage has increased or decreased, especially since we're dealing with, you know, a major drought, an emergency stage 4 drought right now. That's what I'm asking for.
So you're asking for a chart of the amount of water used over the last 5 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she did say 3 or 5, so which is it?
5 years would be great. Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, consent 4. Excuse me, 4.
Okay, I am concerned about this because I know that we passed this watershed stormwater quality management program, and we passed this watershed protection district, which we established, and that was as of November. And you're asking for 14 more months. So you've already had 7 months. And I want to know why you need 14 more months. That's more than a year to establish this. And I recognize that we're working with other cities, that the watershed management includes other entities. With 14 months, I mean, we're talking, if you add 14 months and 7 months, that's 21 months. We're talking about almost 2 years. And this directly relates to the quality of water and the discharge, the PFAS, the radionuclides that are being discharged into the watershed. And that relates directly to our responsibility as a city and as a water district. And so I'm extremely concerned that the request is for 14 more months for almost a total of 2 years to establish this watershed. Our residents can't wait any longer. We're having residents with cancer, with allergies, with thyroid issues, with dental issues. So the quality of our water and the pollution in our discharge is of utmost importance to the health and the well-being of our residents. So can you please explain why you need so much more time?
I'll do my best. Yes, I completely agree that water quality is important. That's why we're asking you to take this action. The current agreement that we have with the other cities and with the the county and with the Watershed Protection District expires on September 11th, is it? Yeah, September 11th of this year. So it's still in force. That agreement will remain until September 11th, at which time it will expire. So we're asking you to extend that for 1 year from September 11th of this year to September 11th of 2023 to allow us the time to work together as staff to come to you with an amended agreement. We don't think we're going to get rid of this 10 cities, the county, and Watershed Protection District continuing to work together, but it's going to change form somewhat because the newest permit we've got is pretty different from previous permits we've had. So as we work through those changes that are being caused to our system, we're going to come to you and tell you this is how the agreement needs to be formed. But it's going to take us a little more time. So we're asking you for that additional year to work on that.
And Joe, just for clarity, this is all 10 cities and the county asking for this extension. It's not just the city of Simi Valley.
Right. Everyone agrees. Everyone is taking this to their agencies. The county has already agreed to it. The Watershed Protection District and County of Ventura has already adopted this.
Okay, in that 1 year extension, will there be measuring of pollutants into the water, and will there be accountability, or is that on hold for another year as well?
No.
That is
That's been
irrelevant.
ongoing since the beginning of our consortium agreement and will continue as it has week in, month out, year out, continue on along as we have steadily done.
And that's in compliance with the permit.
Yes.
Yes.
And the series of permits we've had over the decades.
Yes.
Yes, that hasn't changed.
Well, and as I read this report, it looked like it was also you need time for a cost allocation as
Yeah.
you're trying to decide who's paying more or how who's
So
more responsible.
At the risk of taking too far in the weeds, the new permit is a watershed-based permit. There are 3 watersheds in Ventura County, and so we're in the Cayugas Creek watershed, the Arroyo Simi is, and the Cayugas Creek watershed needs to have a plan specific to the watershed, take care of those needs. So our agreement in the Cayugas Creek watershed amongst us, Thousand Oaks, Moore Park, Oxnard, Camarillo, might be a little different than the Santa Clara watershed, which has Santa Paula, Fillmore, and Ventura. So each watershed has to come up with their own plan specific to their local needs, and the money might be a little bit different amongst those watersheds. So it gives us time to work through all those issues.
I guess my concern, Mr. Deacon, is that if you take a year, I mean, you've talked about how there's already been changes, right? And there's going to continue to be changes because of the drought. So my concern is that if we extend it another year, are there going to be more changes within that 12-month period extension that you asked for that we're going to have to change it yet again? Because that's what it sounds like you just said.
No, that's not what I mean. The permit is issued for 5 years. So the permit was issued September of last year. It has a term of 5 years. The board that issues this permit typically does not issue it within 5 years. They take 8 to 10 years typically to issue the subsequent permit. So we know this permit is good until at least 2026. So those are not changing. Our requirements for water quality are set for the next 5 years, 4+.
Okay, and the discharge limits, there'll still be, I just want to clarify that there will be continued accountability for discharge limits.
Yes, there always has been, and there will continue to be.
Okay, and that includes for all the pollutants I mentioned, radionuclides and PFAS and things like that. Yes?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Does that include, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Does that include discharge limits for things like radionuclides and PFAS?
Whatever the state water board, the water board is requiring us to measure, we are measuring. I don't know if we can tell you that's exactly what's being
It does
measured.
include radionuclides, PFAS. I'm not up to date on.
Okay. And will there be a possibility of another request for another extension after these 12 months?
We'll be coming back to you with something, dare I say, completely different. I mean, I will come back to you with a new agreement that'll be a substantial change from the business we've been doing for the past 20 years. So we're going to come back for approval, and our partnering cities in the Cayugas Creek watershed will be going to their councils apace with us.
Okay, so this is not set in stone yet.
We're all collectively trying to work to the end game. How quickly we get there, there's 10 cities in the county. We're all trying to work together to get there.
Okay, but not all 10 cities are part of this Cayugas Creek watershed district, correct?
Right, there are 5 cities in Cayugas Creek. But Santa Paula, Fillmore, Ventura, they're in Santa Clara watershed. There's a Ventura watershed that includes Ventura and Ojai. So all the cities are impacted in some watershed.
Okay. I'm voting no on this one. I want there to be more accountability. I just think it's
There's
too
plenty
much
of
time
accountability.
every day. A year's a long time.
Then let's take this
A
one.
year's a long time.
Let's take this one separately then.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and vote for its,
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the attached amendment to the countywide stormwater quality management program implementation agreement and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement.
Second?
motion.
Please vote no for me.
Motion and second. We'll call for the vote.
Please vote no for me.
The motion passes with Councilmember Lovenos voting no. That's consent 4.
That's number 5.
Okay, number 5, Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor Mashburn. I was curious as to the increased costs. I wanted to know, is that for the price of water or labor or electricity, or why was it so much more? What was the increased cost, or is it a combination of all 3 of those?
It's all of the above.
So is that, when I say water, does that mean they use more water because the price of water has not increased? So that means more water was used?
Over the course of the year, more water was used than was anticipated, but that will certainly change going forward.
Okay, so it was water and labor and, okay, and materials. Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 8, Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes, I noticed that, again, being a representative of the residents of Simi Valley and of the taxpayer money, I noticed that this cost for broadcasting is $114,000. But I noticed that includes broadcasting the Simi Valley Board of Education meetings. And I was wondering, do they pay for any of these costs, or do we just put the bill?
They reimburse us for that cost.
Okay, so I'm assuming a third of the cost?
Excuse me?
A third of the cost, since they're using a third of the services?
They reimburse us for our cost to broadcast their meetings.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I was looking for that in the staff report, but I didn't see it, and I just want to make sure that we're not we're not paying for that.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I would move that we approve consent items 1, 3, 5, and 8.
Second.
Motion and second. Call for the vote.
Please vote yes for me.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9A, award of fiscal year 2022-23 Community Projects Grant Program funds, and Jennifer Del Toro and Mara Mulch are here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. In 2011, the City and Waste Management executed a memorandum of understanding which provides annual funding of $150,000 to the city for community programs and projects at the City Council's discretion. The City Council developed the Community Projects Grant Program as a means to distribute the funding. The City Council created the Community Projects Grant Review Committee to enhance the public's input into the process for developing funding recommendations. The application period for the fiscal year 22-23 funding cycle began on February 1st and it closed on February 21st. A total of $535,000 was requested from 20 eligible nonprofit organizations that applied for funding. As you heard earlier this evening, the review committee met twice to establish the review process and make its funding recommendation for the fiscal year 22-23 funding cycle. The review committee's funding recommendations, as displayed on the screen in option A of the table, is organized by proposed funding amount. The review committee has recommended that 8 agencies receive funding, and this includes the following agencies: the Boys and Girls Club of Moore Park and Simi Valley, the Samaritan Center Simi Valley, Body, Brain, Train, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Ventura County, Caregivers Volunteers Serving the Elderly, Seroptimus International of Simi Valley, Not One More, and Many Mansions. Of these agencies, 2 were recommended for full funding. A minimum of $10,000 is recommended per request, which is consistent with the eligibility criteria adopted by the City Council. The review committee's funding recommendations attempted to maximize funding to as many agencies as possible, while considering the needs of the community and recognizing that many deserving organizations and worthwhile projects would not receive funding. Following the review committee's recommendations, City staff has been in discussions with community partners, including some of the CPG applicants for possible funding through the American Rescue Plan Act and Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Funds. As a result of these discussions, with pending funds to the Samaritan Center, staff recommends reallocating the review committee's recommendation of $30,000 to the Samaritan Center to other CPG applicants, and this is displayed in option B of the table on the screen. This would increase funding allocations for the Boys and Girls Club and Body, Brain, Train to further assist with proposed vehicle purchase request. This slight modification still maintains the original intent and scope of the review committee's recommendation. This concludes the presentation. Staff and many of the applicants are available if there are any questions.
And I just want to thank you very much. I just want to add on to that we city staff had a long conversation with the Samaritan Center this afternoon, and it says on the chart that ARPA funding will be used for the Samaritan Center. That is correct. The City Council had already allocated out the ARPA funding, and what the Samaritan Center was asking for can be fully funded through that funding source. So we are that's why we are recommending the option B.
Okay, Councilmember Judge. Okay, Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, City Manager Gabler answered my first question. I wanted to make sure the Samaritan Center was taken care of. We have so many great and wonderful nonprofits in town. It's really a difficult decision for anybody to divvy up this money. So I'm glad we have a committee that does it for us. I did have one question for Body Brain Train. Is there somebody here from that group? I just have a quick question for you. You want to come up to the microphone? Sorry.
If you can state your name for the record and your
My name is
representing.
Nikki Leanne.
All right, congratulations on your Business Person of the Year. I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I just had a question because this is new.
Of course.
And what you're doing, I think, is wonderful. But you indicate in your report that you go out to different senior assisted livings and such.
Yeah, so right now we're going out to the senior center and Veronita. It takes me 3 trips back and forth to bring all of our equipment. So that's why we haven't been, we're hoping to work with Oakmont and other senior living facilities, but we just don't have the time and it's mostly the transportation. So we do offer classes at our facility, but we want to get out there more to bring the classes to the seniors so they have more, they know us better, and they trust us more for them to come to our facility as well.
Okay, very good. When you go into like Veronita, are you being paid or is it volunteer?
It's volunteer.
Oh, okay.
We're all donation-based right now.
Okay.
Which means we don't have anything right now. Same with the senior center. When people do take our classes, we're getting small donations, but we just started.
No, I think it's a wonderful program. I might be using it someday
Yeah,
soon.
please.
So, but I just wanted to ask those couple of questions about it.
Okay.
And to give a little bit more publicity for you. So,
Thank you.
So
I
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
Thank you. I just wanted to take it back to the Samaritan discussion because obviously we had someone, Suzanne, who spoke who had some concerns. I know that we authorized those funds. How accessible are they? Are they tied? I mean, do they have access immediately? Do they have this similar reporting requirements? Is it really cumbersome? What?
It is the same reporting requirements, likely the same reporting requirements through the ARPA than there is with the community project grant money. It'll be easily accessible. We do need to come back to the city council next month with a contract with the Samaritan Center for use of all the ARPA money because it would extend beyond my authority. So we should be able to, as we had a conversation with the Samaritan Center today, we should be able to cut checks to them within the next 45 days.
Okay, thank you.
I have the same question. The funds we're given ARPA exceeds what the 30,000 that they're asking for. That's been approved.
Correct.
Okay, so my thinking is, don't we? If I had the Samaritan Center, wouldn't I want to get the ARPA money and also the grant money so I could start building a cushion?
Well, in looking at this recommendation, we didn't want to double fund the Samaritan Center with community project grant money, taking away money that could be used to other recipients and fund them through ARPA when we can do it all through ARPA.
Okay, so that makes me wonder, are there any others that are receiving ARPA money?
There are not, and looking through what they are proposed, it would not fall into the categories the council has approved for ARPA money.
Okay, and you talked to Samaritan Center folks today,
That's correct.
and they agree with us?
I think they're happy campers.
Okay, we didn't hear that in the report though tonight.
Well,
Not from you,
Yeah.
but from the representative.
Yeah, we had a conversation, we had an hour-long conversation that started at 1:30 today with the Samaritan Center, looking at the categories that the council identified for ARPA funds, which is case management for vulnerable population, housing for a vulnerable population, and for food pantry. All of the things the Samaritan Center is looking for fall into those categories, including she had mentioned the van. The van is primarily used for food. That can fall into food distribution as well as case management. So it's an easy fund through that process,
Sure.
as well as the housing vouchers that they were looking for. Again, there's already money set aside through ARPA for housing vouchers. So it's going to be easier for the Samaritan Center and for the City of Simi Valley to provide the requested funding for the Samaritan Center through ARPA funds than it would be through the the Community Project Grant, and it frees up $30,000 to redistribute amongst the recipients here.
The recipients here. And so I have to ask, how come you didn't bring that up tonight? Yeah, please.
Actually, I think there is someone here from the Samaritan Center that may be able to address that as well.
Oh, would that be Rocky?
No. Well, actually, this is a good opportunity to meet the new executive director from the Samaritan Center.
That's great. Perfect. Perfect.
I'm a volunteer at the Samaritan Center, and I was not part of the discussions that happened today. But I did want to reinforce the importance of our need and the fact that I personally experienced the challenges that we have with the track, which
She has.
yes. So,
No, you-
so I
you
think
did-
it's just
your
a
present-
matter of some, ships
Your
crossing in the
presentation was great. I'm not in any way, I just want to make sure everybody agrees.
So I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Annika Zambi. I'm the new executive director. I only started a few weeks, so I'm excited to meet you all, and I'm really looking forward to working together with all of you. So yes, we had a meeting today, and Suzanne is one of our volunteers. She wasn't aware of it. She wasn't in today, of course, and she came tonight in order to support us because she knows how important it is, and she's seen it firsthand that we couldn't deal with our pickups. And that is, the van is just one of the things, it really is. And we had a great meeting with Brian today and his team, and it sounds great. And I think, yes, the way the funds are allocated, if the ARPA falls under the Samaritan Center, I think the 30,000 should go to other places that need it.
You're good
Because,
with that.
yeah.
Okay.
We're all a community, we want to work together, and as much as we need it, and if there is other funds we can use, yes, other organizations should get part of that as well. And yeah, thank you so much. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have another
Mayor, I
question.
have several questions, if I may.
Okay, we've got people that talk. Okay, you have what?
If I could just finish up, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I wanted to have a question. Well, let me, in full disclosure, I appreciate the comments of Ms. Larkowski, who is our first speaker. In full disclosure, I am on the Simi Valley Ed Foundation board, so if there's any change, I would step aside and would not be voting at all. But my question is one of criteria. I think it was explained that the group got together and met to try to determine, and so I want, maybe we can be more transparent about what they'd established, at least this year, what the objection.
I'm so sorry,
So-
Councilman, can you elaborate on what you just said?
Yes,
about-
okay, yes, let me be very clear. There are 19 applicants. One is not being considered, and so so my question is.
They're not on the list now, so they're
They're
not
on the
part
list
of this
now.
consideration.
Absolutely, they're not
So
part of
you're
the
not
conver-
making any judgment or determination? as
Absolutely
to that-
not, absolutely not, yes.
And you indicated you're on the board of,
Of the Simi Valley Ed Foundation
okay, which is not being considered here.
is not being considered. They made an application, and
Well,
so,
I think they were asked to be considered. And I think
correct.
that's what they're doing, so they are being asked to be
Right.
considered.
What's the status of the application?
They're one of the 19.
Let me check with staff.
Okay, sure.
It would be at the discretion of the council to fund that organization, so it's still eligible to receive funding tonight under this item.
Then the mayor is correct, then you probably need to recuse yourself as to that discussion.
So I guess, so let me just ask, because so I should not, if it stays with the
Well, I'm a-
8
I'm a
as
little-
allocated.
I'm actually concerned that the fact that their application is still pending and it's still
Okay,
part of it, you should probably recuse yourself in the abundance of caution at this moment.
fair enough. Okay, so I'm going to step, I'll let you decide if you're going to have that conversation. I will step off the dais, which is truly what you do when you recuse yourself. So, thank you.
Mayor, may I ask some questions?
Yes.
Okay, I would like Mr. Gabler to answer because my understanding is that the Boys and Girls Club did receive $150,000 in ARPA funding. Is that not true?
That was identified for childcare, daycare services, that's correct.
So they have received funding, and you just told the mayor that they did not receive funding, but they have in fact received funding.
Yes, I was referring to the ones that had not received, that were not recommended. So misunderstood, but yes, the Boys and Girls Club of Moore Park and Simi Valley, through the council's approval of the ARPA funds, would be allocated money for childcare and daycare services.
So, yeah, I know what the funding is for. It's just that, you know, when he asked you if there were any other entities receiving ARPA funding and you stated no. And I think that's not true. They are receiving $150,000 of funding from ARPA. With that in mind, I do want to clarify that we do have it would be inequitable for them to receive this money. This money, the community project grant funding, is meant to help grassroots nonprofits, of which we have many in need in this community. Both the Boys and Girls Club and the Big Brothers and Big Sisters are national organizations. They're not grassroots organizations, and there are many entities here. I was actually going to suggest that the Simi Valley Education Foundation be considered, that the funding from Boys and Girls Club not be considered, since they're already receiving $150,000 in funding for daycare through ARPA, which will service many of those needs. My own children have been serviced by Boys and Girls Club in the past when they were younger. I know for a fact they have tons of vans, and they're receiving $150,000 of funding. So I do think it is of utmost importance to make sure that our students, our 17,000 students in Simi Valley Unified School District, do receive the funding for new books. I know that is one of the last things that's funded, but something that's very necessary. And in my school alone, I spend at least $150 a month on books for my students, newer books, because they don't want to read stuff from 20, 30 years ago. There are some classics, but you need new books. So I was going to actually suggest that the funding from Boys and Girls Club be removed, because they're already getting $150,000 of funding. And if not, and Big Brothers and Sisters, again, also receives a lot of money. And so that was my suggestion, was that either we not give money to Boys and Girls Club, of which we have a conflict of interest, because we do, in fact, own the building that Boys and Girls Club operates out of. Is that correct, Mr. Gabler? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Yes. Do we own the building? Does the city own the building Boys and Girls Club operates out of?
We own it and we lease it to the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, so that again seems like a conflict of interest. And in addition to that, we have a mayoral candidate, Fred Thomas, who's on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club. And I would hate for there to be, some sort of, favoritism, seeing as how we have a council member that's already.
I think you're misstating. I don't think Fred Thomas is on the board of directors of the Boys. Yes.
I believe, well, last time I checked, he was on the board of directors, and he is a mayoral candidate. And I would hate for us to have that conflict of interest.
Well, was is entirely different. He was at one time, yes. He is not at this time.
Okay, and you have that verified, Mayor?
Do you want it verified in writing or what?
Yes, I do. I do want it verified in writing.
You can call it Mr. Mosier, and he can qualify whether Mr. Thomas is on the board or not.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Thomas was
Mr. Mosier, can you answer that?
What?
Can you answer that, Mr. Mosier?
Yes, I can. Mr. Thomas was a board member at one point, but the 3 years that I've been involved with the club and CEO of the club, he has not been on the board of directors.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, would you mind putting that in writing so I can, she requested it in writing. Very, very quick on pen, just sign it. I'll be sure to put it in her mailbox.
Thank you. When I'm past COVID, I will go and pick it up. Again, I think there are two national organizations. We have to go back and looking at what the purpose is of these community project grant funds, and they are to fund grassroots community organizations. To that regard, the Body Brain Train, I'd like to ask her a couple of questions. Is she here?
Yes, she's available.
Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry, I can't face you.
That's okay.
I can see the back of you from my Zoom. perspective here. I'd like to know, do you have a private company that does this, that does senior workouts?
Do we have a private company?
Yes, because my understanding is that you have a company, and then this is a parallel nonprofit that's requesting these funds.
Well, I own a kickboxing gym here in Simi Valley, but this is separate. This is a 501c3 that I started with one of my trainers to serve the senior community in Simi Valley.
And my concern is that you talked about going to Veronita, and you talked about going to these other Oakmont, these very expensive senior care facilities where I know, because I've asked, the minimum is $5,000 to $7,000 a month for those, and they have gyms and they have services. I'd like to see you go to the Senior Care Center. I'd like to see you go to serve our low-income seniors. That's what I would like to see the service for, because those are the people who are, they don't have the $7,000 a month, that they pay or their families pay for their care at these very expensive for-profit senior care facilities. So I'd like to know if you're going to be equitable in terms of offering those services to low-income seniors in our community who most need these services.
That is our intention. Veronita happens to be a mile away from the gym, and so does the senior center. So that's why we've only been, because I do have to make several trips back and forth. We bring cardio drumming to their facilities. I think it's important to hit those low-income places as well. We just started again, but it's also important to just get in front of seniors in general. We have people at Veronita that don't utilize the exercising in there. So we're kind of getting it out there because we believe that movement makes miracles and seniors need to move. And even though they're at an $8,000 facility, they might not be getting what they need. But yes, we're looking to expand. We're looking to visit more places, but it's very time consuming, the transportation and all that. So that is our goal, to get out there to everyone in the senior community. And so all the seniors know who we are and where they can get help.
So again, Veronita does not take Medicare. I know, because I've asked. So they don't serve any low income. And even though, they do have workout facilities, they do actively advertise that they're going to.
Hold on, council member.
At this point, I'd just like to ask staff if they've had a chance to review whether or not this particular entity has met all other criteria for being eligible.
Yeah, so each applicant was vetted against the eligibility criteria as established by the City Council in February of 2017. For those of you who are in council chambers, that eligibility criteria is displayed on the screen. So what city staff did was verify the 501c3 status, both for active and in good standing with the tax entities, as well as whether or not they serve the Simi Valley community, and their business tax certificate to be operating legally within the city of Simi Valley.
And it's also on page 7 of the staff report.
I've got a question. I'm old enough to go to the senior center, but Pride or something, I won't go. But my question is, if I go there to participate, what's it going to cost me to get in?
So there's no admission charge to the City Senior Center. There are some programs that may have nominal fees through our community partners, such as Parks and Rec and other things. The way that I'm understanding the response from the applicant is that they're not currently charging for any services they're providing, including those at the Senior Center, but they are willing to accept donations to help support the nonprofit's mission.
And so I'm unemployed, out of work, a senior, and I can walk into the senior center, and this lady can come in, and I can jump into her program.
The Senior Center would provide access to this nonprofit
So
services
there's-
to any senior within our community.
So there's no application where they're looking for income or how much money you have in the bank. So plenty of folks, if they so desire, that do not have a lot of money are welcome to go there, and she's donating her services there.
That's my understanding of how the applicant has presented their mission.
And so thank you.
Thank you. And we also offer, we do have our little facility next to Trader Joe So when we do go into those classes, we tell them 4 days a week, you guys are welcome to come over and take our classes as well. Good.
I have another question for you, if I may. Are you going to continue to ask for donations if you receive this grant?
Yes, because we have to pay rent to our facility, and this grant does not cover rent.
Okay, is it rent for the facility of your private business or rent for the facility where you provide these services free of charge?
Rent for the facility where we provide these services free of charge. We have a storefront called the Body Brain Train, and it's next to Trader Joe.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there's no mixing of funds. Do you understand my concern?
That there's no,
Yeah,
I don't know.
At this point, I have no legal concerns with that particular line of questioning, Councilmember Luevanos. I think you're fine.
I'm good, okay, thank you.
Okay, I didn't get an answer to the question that there's going to be no mixing of funds between her private enterprise and this nonprofit.
The lady has applied and been vetted through the system, and we can't question everybody being crooks that walk in here. We take them as good quality. She gave an explanation of what she was doing, why she was doing it, very candid about her business that is not a 501(c)(3). And I don't approve of this type of questioning. We'd never.
You don't approve of me asking for accountability for our taxpayers
That wasn't
and our
what I
residents?
asked.
That's all I'm asking, Mayor. I'm asking for accountability and transparency. That's what I was elected to do. That's what you were elected to do. So you don't approve of transparency and accountability.
I don't approve of you trying to put words in my mouth.
I'm not just asking for an answer. It's a yes or no question.
Mr. Mayor, would you entertain a motion?
Sure.
Can I, before you go, I just want to make one clarification.
Yes, sir.
I misspoke when I said the Boys and Girls Club had been allocated $150,000 for childcare and daycare services through the ARPA. That money was actually allocated. The Boys and Girls Club was identified as a potential vendor, as well as the YMCA and the Rancho Sima Recreation and Park District. So all that money is not allocated to the Boys and Girls Club. I just want to make sure that was on the record. So,
But they are receiving ARPA funds.
Yes, for child care use only. All right, I'd like to make a motion. I move to award $150,000 in community projects grant funding for fiscal year 2022-23 to the agencies as recommended by staff as detailed in option B in table 1, and authorize the city manager to approve revised scopes of work and execute contracts to match final funding awards.
Second.
Motion and second, call for the vote.
Please vote no for me. I believe in equity for all of our nonprofits. That's the purpose of these grants.
The motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no. Mayor Pro Tem Lister is recused. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 10A, City Council Member Reports.
Okay, reports. Councilmember Luevanos.
Mine will be very short, Mayor, because I was not able to attend any events. I actually got COVID within a couple of days after our last City Council meeting, and I've been recovering from COVID and taking care of my family who is recovering from COVID as well. So I have nothing to report at this point in time. I have been quarantining at home to stay safe from everybody else.
Understandable. Okay, Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, Thursday, June 16th, I helped with the interviewing for the returning youth council members, and we picked some pretty good people to come back. I think they'll be talked about at our next meeting. On Saturday, June 18th, we had a bid farewell to Eric Smith, a very good citizen of our city who passed away at a very young age. It's very sad to see him go. He participated in a lot of our community events. He participated in a lot of our city functions. He actually ran for city council once. It was very sad, and I'm wishing his parents all the best. Horrible. On Sunday, June 19th, I hope that everybody, including myself, I had a good time. I hope everybody else did. All the fathers out there, so happy Father's Day to everybody. On Monday, June 20th, I attended a meeting here at City Hall with the city manager and the mayor with Andrew Thomas from SCE, and we talked about wildfire prevention and all the stuff that SCE is trying to do to keep us from having those PSPS, which is a public safety, what is that? Public safety
Power
shutoff.
Power shutoff. Yeah, we're trying to do everything we can to keep that to a minimum in our city. I'm sorry I was unable and not able to attend the swearing in of our new officers later that day. On Wednesday, June 22nd, I attended the Cayugas Metropolitan Water District Drought Task Force, where we did absolutely nothing except talk about how we're going from 15 minutes a day for the one day you're allowed to water to 10 minutes a day, and that's going to happen pretty soon. And I'm with the city manager on this because we agreed that if they're going to start changing rules, they should just do it all at once instead of just doing what they did during COVID and sending out different rules every other week. They're going to go from 15 to 10. Just stand by. That's going to happen. Right now, you're still allowed to do 15. Thursday, June 23rd. No, I didn't do that. On Friday, June 24th, I attended with the mayor and city manager interviews for our new administrative service director, and I believe she's right there. Congratulations. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you. I didn't know about the promotion. Congratulations, Carolyn.
Hope it wasn't a secret, but
It's not anymore.
You just, the city manager was going to announce that, but good job.
Oh, I said the name, sorry. Okay, couple things. On Thursday, June 16th, we had our EDC Economic Development Collaborative Board meeting. A lot of very interesting things. And excuse me, what I really wanted to bring up tonight was with June being Pride Week or Pride Month, the Economic Development Collaborative is having special webinars specifically for the LGBT community. So tomorrow they have GBTQ plus Pride Month grants and loans. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. they have a specific webinar just for that. On the 29th, they have a Massachusetts SBA Virtual Cafe, LGBTQ plus Pride Month. They will be discussing SBA loans for the LGBTQ Pride community. On the same day, a little bit later, they're showcasing international success of LGBTQ owned and led businesses. And then on the 30th, they're doing SBA's Elevating Small Business Series webinar, celebrating LGBTQI plus Pride Month. So those are 4 different webinars that are available from the EDC Collaborative, specifically the next couple of days. I didn't have that information before, or I would have shared it out, but I just wanted to make sure that we got that information out to our community today. You can go to edcollaborative.org, and you can sign up for any of those. It's very easy, and they're all free. On Saturday, June 18th, I had the opportunity to visit Music in the Park has started back up again. Thank you, Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District. It was very nice. It was a country western theme that night. I enjoyed the music. It was only about half full for from what has been in the past. So I think people are just now starting to come out and join in the community again. But everyone had a great time, and I want to thank the Park District for that. And that's all I did. So other than work. So thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by saying I know I didn't get to vote on the grants recipients, but I will tell you that I read them all the applications very carefully. I think very deserving, all that received them. And I know that there are quite a few people here representing those amazing, wonderful nonprofits. And I just wish we had more money to keep throwing at all the good works that are being done. But so thank you for those that are here representing and making a difference in our community, because truly I see tremendous things being done, tremendous things. With regards to my report, on Tuesday, June 14th, it was Flag Day, and it was a delight to attend the Flag Day special ceremony at the Veterans Court up at the mall, and appreciated remarks of our mayor, and I believe Councilmember Judge was there. But what's lovely is all the flags have been replaced, and so you can see honoring all of our military and first responders. It was really a lovely event out in the heat, but it was so nice that we have that as the center of our outdoor mall. On Wednesday, June 15th, I attended the Simi Valley Arts Commission meeting along with Mayor Mashburn. One of the things that they're working on right now is the bylaws, which is a very time-intensive process, but I see that much good will come of that. We'll try to codify exactly what the mission and what's being done by this commission and how it all works with clarity. On Thursday, June 16th, I had the fun opportunity of attending a Seroptimist installation, and we happened to have the current president and the past president sitting here in our chambers. It was a delight to present an award to Karen Troop and commend her for her service. And Lisa Eidman, I know you will be a phenomenal new president, and was gratified to see that your application award funds were there to make a difference in women's lives, and I know that you will continue to do your great work. But it was fun to feel like I was a little interloper in their installation meeting. On that same day, actually, I met with Mr. Brian Gabler and had a good meeting with him. We discussed many things. One of the things we talked about was some of the power outages that have been occurring that are not necessarily PSPSs. And I was concerned, and I appreciated the fact that Mr. Gabler has been speaking with Southern California Edison. In fact, he just mentioned, as I was asking more questions about it, that there have been at least 20 instances in the last 2 or 3 months that have been noticed, and I know that the city is going to be holding them accountable and they'll have to explain, because it's just not acceptable to have that in our community. And so I appreciate that he is working on that. Yes, Father's Day was wonderful, and congratulations to all the wonderful fathers in this group. I confess that following week, I have been in Sioux Falls for the American Harp Society, and I flew from Sioux Falls to Honolulu, Hawaii, to attend my son-in-law's graduation from BYU Hawaii. So I've been in 5 different 5-hour time zones, and I took a red eye back this morning so I could be here and be part of this fun here. So I'm afraid I had no city business this past week, but what I appreciated is the beauty of this country that we live in. We are really blessed to live in this great, great country, the United States of America, and there's beauty everywhere. And that is my report.
Thank you. Before I get started on mine, I think Dee Dee Kavanaugh has some great news to pass on, and she forgot to give it in her report. And your print is too small.
I know.
For me to
I
see.
tried to get the mayor to do it, but he couldn't read it. But so our wonderful mayor and city manager made a request from Assemblymember Jackie Irwin, we will be in her district when the change goes through. But in the budget, she has implemented a request from us for $4.5 million to the city of Simi Valley for the Simi Valley Metrolink Safety Improvement and Quiet Corridor to build a second train track in the city in an effort to improve safety, increase services, and make the existing service more reliable. That means they won't be honking their horns or pulling the horns all the way through city. So thank you to Assemblymember Jackie Irwin. We wanted to make sure that we told her thank you. So thank you to the mayor and city manager for working on that.
Yes, and thank you to everybody that lives in this community, because it's your tax dollars that's being distributed. So when Mike Judge can sleep all night, that's because of your tax dollars, so thank you very much. Go home and have a nice one and enjoy. Okay, thank you, Dee Dee. Myself, let's see, I attended the Economic Development Committee along with the group from the Chamber of Commerce. I also, same day later on, went to the Flag Day event. Thank you to the city for the new flag. It stood out great, and the old one was in trouble. And thank you, Elaine, for the words on the Simi Valley Arts Commission. I think we made some headway there, and good things will come out of that group as we move on and get things organized, and you'll start seeing people return to the facility for the mini, and you got to look at the guide of coming events. It's going to be very good. So thank you for that. On Thursday, June 16th, met with the Caneo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors, and we meet annually and discuss things that would apply to both cities, or all three cities actually, and have discussions. I went out on a limb because some of the people were from Thousand Oaks and asked them, how in the heck did you get that dump put in such a beautiful area right by the mall? And boy, did I get in trouble. That it's not a dump, and then I get in trouble when I call our local dump a dump. It's really a landfill. And if you ever forget, boy, they let you know it. But at any rate, a new service company moved in and moved all their equipment right in a really pretty part of town. So I was saying I didn't really approve of that because I drive through there, and they assured me it was temporary. I can assure you, this city council would never approve a temporary landfill in the middle of town. On Saturday, along with Mike Judge, I too went to the service for Eric Smith. Big loss to this community. Young man that was very involved in our community politics and was taken way too soon. He did run for council, and we all learned to like him very much. He was a true gentleman, good young man, and sorry to see him have to leave so soon. I met with, on the Monday the 20th, I too met with Southern California Edison, and we talked about wildfires and prevention updates, and he gave us a lot of information, and we asked a lot of questions of him, but it was a good meeting, and I think you're going to see continued improvement. I wish I could answer for you why we have like 20 outages at this point, but it has nothing to do with the wildland prevention process. So I do know they've been doing a lot of upgrades, and they may be having troubles doing that. Don't know, but it is not the power shutoff program that they have that is causing the power to be out. I think it's broken equipment. Thursday, June 23rd, there was supposed to be a Simi Valley Tourism Marketing District meeting, and it seems to me, and I'm reporting back to my council, that I'll be checking on. It seems to me that we've had a lot of canceled meetings, and I don't think that's good. So we'll inquire, and I'll report back to you on why, and if I'm correct. On Friday, June 24th, participated in some interviews, and I think we selected the right person, and we'll see things going in a very positive way here at the city. And that is it for me. Okay, next up is 9B. 10B, which is talking about future agenda items. So anybody that has anything, I have something.
Mayor, I have
Go ahead.
I don't know who you're talking to, Mayor. Are you talking to me?
Yeah, go ahead, Ruth.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt you, Mayor.
No, I appreciate that. That's fine.
Okay, I had said earlier I was going to request a future report from the Ventura County. I know that she just got, I know Ms. Plant just got appointed, but in the future it would be nice to have a report from Ventura County Agency on Aging. We used to have reports from other, appointed individuals, not just our youth council. So I would love to hear what resources are available out there. And as we have more and more seniors that are really struggling, low-income seniors in the community, I'm sure they would love to hear what resources are available from the county. So is that possible?
Well, Ruth, if I might add, they do give a report right now to the Council on Aging every month, actually every month when they meet. There's an update about their meetings. I'm not saying
I know,
that,
but not everyone can attend the Council on Aging meetings.
I understand that. I'm not saying that couldn't also be shared here, but I just wanted to be sure you were aware that there is absolutely a monthly accountability and reporting about that work.
Oh, this is not for accountability. This is just, sharing resources because, like, for example, I know seniors who are caretakers and they work full time during the day, so they can't make it to those council. That's why I could never make those meetings because they're in the middle of the day. So for those seniors who do work, and we have many of them who do work, the city council meetings would be the, place and time where they would be able to get that information. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean,
You can have them include that in their report.
right. Did you hear Mike?
No, I did not.
The Council on Aging gives us a briefing once a month like the Youth Council does. They can include that in their report. I'm sure it's not a big deal.
Okay, so they can do that during a city council meeting?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. My second request is with regard to a comment that Mr. Pachowski made. I do think we need to address the issue of enforcement of watering non-functional turf and, just enforcement of the, what we set forth. It is concerning to me that we had at least two items on the agenda where there was an exceedance of usage of water from previous instances, and then we had to adjust accordingly for, the landscaping and for, I'm sorry, I forgot the other one, but just water usage in general, the budget for water. So I would like to see enforcement of watering. I don't know if we need to pass an ordinance. I don't know what exactly we need for that to happen. So can you tell me can we put that on a future agenda item? How do we make that happen?
Our city staff is currently doing enforcement as we have a lot of people out in the community during the day. They will note locations where water usage is taking place when it shouldn't be taken, and then our staff follows up on that. We also have an email address that residents and others can report water wasters to. That's waterconservation@simivalley.org. We welcome people to shoot us an email, and they are, about water wasters in the community that people come across. So we are out there enforcing it. We are, again, we take an education approach where we educate the users on a first and second try, and after that, then unfortunately we start into the finding system. So I can tell you that that enforcement is taking place, and we are getting a lot of contact from residents in the community that are letting us know where we need to follow up on with folks that have not been abiding by the current water emergency.
I can tell you there was no warning when my water was cut off at my residence at midnight. There was no warning. There was no, hey, we're going to give you a warning. There was just strict enforcement. They literally turned the water off to my residence. So I'd like to see that kind of equitable enforcement. I would like to think that it's not just because I'm Latina. I would like to think that enforcement happens regardless of someone's background. So I'd like to see that kind of enforcement because I didn't get a warning. So I'd like to know that that's happening across the city, that we have that kind of enforcement. Is that enforcement going to happen?
If I remember correctly, the reason your water was turned off is because you had a major water leak, and we were called to that area. That had nothing to do with the drought, and that was over a year ago. But we are doing water enforcement. Our crews are out there. We are noting water wasters. We are following up on them.
But can you acknowledge that there was no warning and my water was simply turned off?
That needs to be, it's a subsequent discussion, and I just want to add, to date, I haven't seen any inequitable enforcement. Just want to state that for the record.
Well, we're having one policy that's being stated by the city manager, another one that's actually being implemented.
So, Ruth, I'm sorry. Ruth, are you asking for the city council to impose fines, water cutoffs? Is that what you're asking us to discuss?
I'm asking for equitable enforcement because from what I'm hearing from the city manager is that there's just warnings that are being given. and there's no actual enforcement. And there actually has been enforcement for waterways. So I'd like to see that being done equitably, because according to Mr. Pachowski, that's not happening.
I think at this time we should stop the discussion and see if we get a second on putting this on a future agenda.
Well, we're going to have water on the future agenda discussion, but
it is, I can tell you,
But not-
I can tell
yeah.
you that we are enforcing, we are finding when necessary. The fines are in place. It was a resolution adopted by the city council a number of years ago that is now in place. We are coming back to you in August, the first meeting in August, because we have to change, as one of the speakers, Councilmember Judge noted, that the Metropolitan Water District it will be changing the number of minutes that you can let a cycle run from currently 15 to 10. We have to come back with that change. So that's going to come back in August because it's not being implemented yet. So there's more on water to come. There's more on water that will continue to come forward. And we're more than happy to have that discussion at that time.
Can I have a report at least on enforcement actions that are taking place throughout the city with
Sure.
what our current restrictions are?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. I have another request, Mayor.
Okay.
This is with regard to, I'd like a report on citations, if any, have been issued with regard to fireworks. That can be an email or a future agenda item.
We will email you all current fireworks activity that is currently taking place and what's planned over the next week.
No, I want a list of citations. How many citations have been issued?
Sure, we can
That's what I
provide
would
that.
like specific. Okay, and then I have one last request, Mayor. This is for future community project grants. I noticed that one of the people that were there, one of the beneficiaries stated that they served 4% of the people, and 100% of the people that would receive the funding would be from Simi Valley. I would like in the future for that application to include how many people, like number of people are served by those funds, and how that money contributes to ongoing program or services. It's pretty sad to me that our applications are way simpler than an Eagle Scout project or a Gold Award that we ask 14, 15, and 16-year-olds to fill out for Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So I would like to know how many people are served by those funds and how that money contributes to ongoing programs or services. I'd like that to be included in the future application.
Do we have a second for that? For that request?
Well, isn't that already included in the application? I think
No, the application says what percentage of people are from Simi Valley, and that's what it asks for. So you could be serving 10 people in Simi Valley, and you say, yeah, 100% of the 10 people that we're serving, we're giving this $10,000 to are in Simi Valley, but you don't know how many people are being served.
I do think
So
it's
that's
reasonable
the
to ask how many people will be touched by a project. I don't think that's, if the wording needs to be changed a little bit in the application, I don't think that, I think that would be certainly appropriate.
Isn't that something we could just ask staff?
Yeah,
Yes, we
we'll
can
take
ask-
care
We
of it.
don't have to.
Yes.
agendize
We
it.
can take care of that.
Okay, yeah, I just want to know how many people are going to be served by the funds. Those are my requests. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I think it's my turn, right?
Yes.
Okay. Mine is, I've noticed in tonight was a good example, but it's just ongoing, that we sit up here and we just, staff, give us a report on that. Staff, give us a report on this. Staff, give us a report on that. Staff is busy. I'm here a lot. Staff is extremely busy. And I don't like telling stories, but I worked at a fire headquarters, and we had chiefs that would do that. And just every time they see you going down the hall, I need a report on this. And when you take it to them, after you sweat through it for a couple of weeks, they go, what's this? I didn't ask for this. Yes, you did. And so what I'm driving at is we sit up here and just ask for the reports after reports, and I think that we ought to sit down as a council and talk to each other and maybe come up with something like, hey, we need a second for that. Because, you know, if we're just asking for reports and staff to do a bunch of hours of work that we're really not gonna take anywhere, it's like, we need a better explanation. What do you need that for, and what are you gonna do with it? You know, if you wanna, say, I'll try being a little ridiculous on it, but if you wanna say, how many fireworks went off on 4th of July night? What am I gonna do with that information? And, you know, everybody can see a whole bunch of them went off. So anyway, I'm asking for someone to second this so we can have a discussion and quit putting out a bunch of requests that we may not need or may be located somewhere else. So that's my, my beef.
Can you clarify the motion?
Yes, motion
Mayor?
is to have a more than one request for reports during a council meeting. Okay, we have, well, we don't need to, it's got a second, so it can go on.
So are you saying if Councilman Judge asked for a report, he would have to get a second to get a report for accountability purposes and
I
transparency?
didn't say you'd have to. I said I wanted to discuss a method by which we could limit the number of reports we're requesting on a regular basis of a staff that's already very, very busy.
If we're concerned about staff being busy, then we should hire the staff for the unfilled positions.
Now, I'm asking for it to be in the future.
I'm giving you a solution to your problem, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to move on and adjourn tonight. Once again, this is not good news by any stretch of the imagination, but we're going to adjourn in memory of Police Officer Joseph Santana and Corporal Michael Paredes from the El Monte Police Department. And before I add to the last one, I want to say about these two gentlemen, how tragic that was. I mean, it's in our state, it's not that far away from us. This is a huge tragedy, and we just ought to be very thankful that something like that hasn't happened in this community. And I know that the city sent a letter of recognition of these two individuals. These two gentlemen are heroes, and hopefully, I think other organization in the city is sending an offer of help to the families. So it's with great sadness that I recognize those two police officers. Also, I think we mentioned her name last meeting, not sure, Celine Gillibrand. And she went by Billy, and she was an icon here in Simi Valley. If you go up Tapple Canyon, there's the Gillibrand rock quarry, and for many, many years, they hauled rocks down. And she was, I don't know if she's actually born in the community, but was definitely raised here.
She's raised in the Tirada Valley.
Yeah, up La Priere Street. Yeah. In fact, that was her maiden name, La Priere. But at any rate, a wonderful lady, very giving, and did so much for this community. And what was kind of ironic about her, because she lived way at the far end of Tapple Canyon, she was actually in the county area. So whenever you'd see her at an event, writing a check out to whatever nonprofit we were at, she would always stand in the background and go, well, I'm not really in the city. And those of us that knew her would always laugh and say, you are the city. You know, it's, how could you say that? But at any rate, I think her service is tomorrow. But so we'll close tonight in her memory also. With that, the meeting is adjourned.